Taco Tuesday. We're live at Social Taco here in Homewood. Soho Social right across the way. Social Standard right across the way.
Soho Standard, but
Yeah.
it's very social.
Well,
in there.
it's all the same.
We were there last Friday night.
That's what I hear.
It was amazing.
Should be.
Yeah.
Great restaurants here. Come on by and see us. We're located on the Taco Terrace, second floor. Doors open up at 11 o'clock. We will continue the conversation you just heard on Mac and Cube this morning in regards to what is going on down in New Orleans. And Landry, we kind of touched on it yesterday in the back end of the show in the 1 o'clock hour. And this is the pivotal moment in which the SEC and Big Ten, when they announced that they were going to get together and talk, which they did in Nashville before and now in New Orleans, that we're expecting some movement out of there moving forward after Wednesday, and I think we're going to get it. It's very fascinating, all the details that are starting to come out of New Orleans.
Well, it's going to be the belief that the SEC and the Big Ten, they're going to flex when they have the opportunity. And then how much pushback, how much resistance are they going to get from the likes of the Big 12, the ACC, and the group of 5 conferences? That will be fascinating to see. And what are the demands? Because Greg Sankey and Tony Petitti, they have had a long time to think about this. They have heard from their constituents in their member institutions and those 2 respective conferences. They've heard the gripes, the moans, complaints of presidents, ADs, and those all coming from coaches. So we will follow that story closely, to say the least.
So the coaches were down in New Orleans last night from the SEC, and I was told that the SEC coaches in attendance for the coach AD meetings, that they were optimistic on what they heard about the potential revenue share cap, the NIL outside enforcement model that we've been talking about on this show in regards to that LLC that they wanted to develop, in which that was going to be the new NCAA governance. That model is being transformed by the commissioners as a working LLC. Now, Pete Thamel had a story late last night. He was quoted someone from the meeting that was talking about the potential revenue share and the new NIL outside enforcement model, saying it's not going to be perfect, but it sounds 100 times better than what we currently have. And that's one thing, Landrum, that we've been talking about for a long time. And coaches, they just want some governance. They just want some guardrails, because right now it is just off the chain.
Yeah, if it's just baby steps that that we get. Now, I think that everybody agrees maybe it needs to be more than a baby step, but at least look like you're trying to address the problem, as opposed to everyone just saying, let's wait on Congress to pass something, or let's wait on somebody at the federal level to propose something, and then those discussions, let's quit kicking the can down the road, because that is actually how we got here. Kicking the can of NIL and all of that good stuff down the road for more than a decade and not addressing the problem. Let's try to put some guardrails up before this thing gets really out of control, really out of control.
Mike Griffith normally joins us at 10:05 on Tuesdays. He is on the Gulf of America, checking on his property.
It's a great place to be. And
getting his Airbnb ready for me and Landrum, as we're going to be the first ones that's potentially going to be renting that. So we're looking forward to that on the newly named Gulf of America.
3-man front beach blast.
There you go. I like that. I like that a lot.
We can do that.
Yeah, we can make that happen. Coming up at noon, we'll talk to Ty Richardson from Arkansas Radio, ESPN Arkansas, matter of fact, as he will preview tomorrow night's Auburn-Arkansas game. At 1 o'clock, we'll go to St. Louis, Missouri, and talk to Eli Hoff. He covers the Missouri Tigers, and we will talk about that big game all of a sudden between Alabama and Mizzou as the Tide, they try to right the ship. But let's go back and have this discussion, and we'd love to hear from you. 1-800-239-WJOX, the courtesy GMC text line, 205-834-9450. I was on a radio show yesterday in Waco, Texas, and I love the guys. It's
is that the Sick'em?
It's 365.
Okay.
365 Sports. And so when they asked me to come on, I was under the assumption, now they didn't misrepresent themselves, but I assumed that they wanted to talk Alabama and Auburn basketball. That was kind of my thinking. Or talk about Mi Casita, one of their fine sponsors there at 365. So I get on there, and I was on there for about 20, 25 minutes, and 20 of the 25 was talking about what we are talking about right now. Because needless to say, they're from the Big 12, and let's just say that they were coming at me with both barrels and I had to defend our territory. I had to defend our Birmingham business of the Southeastern Conference. I mean, they were fair. It was a good conversation. It wasn't like some of these other people that you see on social media that just start screaming and yelling. And,
did they lead off the conversation
Sankey's,
with you, Pat? Go, why do you think you're better than us?
And they didn't call Greg Sankey snaky. Greg Sankey snaky.
That was a Kansas State guy.
Yeah, that was the Kansas State guy that does the podcast. Now, they brought up some very good points, and I basically, just like I said on the show yesterday, my feeling is this. Greg Sankey serves at the pleasure of the presidents and the chancellors of the universities of the Southeastern Conference, right?
Yeah.
What is he charged to do? He is charged.
Serve their best interest.
Absolutely. What is their best interest? It's that bottom line, right?
Money.
Right. The budget that they have. And so do you think those presidents and chancellors were very happy knowing that the SEC only got the number of teams in the college football playoff this year that they got?
No.
No.
And
not
who do
at
you
all.
think heard about it first?
That would be Greg Sankey.
That would be absolutely shoot the messenger.
Absolutely. I was told that the Sunday after the announcement that the SEC only got the number of teams in that they got in, that all of a sudden there were already conversations being had between Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey about how this thing was going to be massaged and it was going to be fixed. And so the conversation yesterday in Waco, it basically tended to, okay, so if the SEC wants to play hardball and the SEC wants to do this, why should they get 4 automatic qualifiers? I mean, I said, well, that's a good question, but I'm just going to give you 11 years of data. So I gave them the 11 years of data in which the SEC actually has averaged, if you went to a 14 or a 16 team, it would be 5+ teams per year. Then they retorted and said, well, should the Philadelphia Eagles go ahead and be given a playoff spot in next year's NFL playoffs because they just won the Super Bowl?
That's a good rebuttal.
Yeah, no, I was like, okay, I can see that this is going to be like a nice little back and forth here. And so we did, and we respect each other. And needless to say, they're not in the camp of going to go quietly. They think Brett Yormark is definitely going to do his part, which he should. He's the commissioner of the Big 12 Conference, just like Jim Phillips is going to air his grievances. But the end of the day, Landrum, with all this being said, I needed to remind them one thing. That of the top 20 most viewed college football games from this previous season, the SEC and Big Ten teams were involved in every single one of the top 20. The next game on that list, coming in at number 21, that did not involve an SEC or a Big Ten team, was the Army-Navy game. Matter of fact, when you look at it, 84% of the top 100, so it's easy math for you out there. I'm not a math major, but that would mean 84 of the top 100 viewed games.
That would be 84%.
84% included an SEC or a Big Ten team. Now, the rest of those was mixed in between the Big 12 and the ACC. But 84% of the eyeballs that tune into college football this year tuned in to either watch an SEC or a Big Ten team play. And so my point to them was, at the end of the day, the television partners are Fox and ESPN. They want as many eyeballs as they can on their product. And if they believe by giving automatic qualifiers of 4 to the Big Ten and 4 to the SEC is in the best interest of them and their sponsors, that's what they're going to do. They didn't like that. They have this grandiose idea of just the, again, one for all. It's the Robin Hood mentality.
Okay.
And I just was like, I'm sorry, guys. I mean, it's just not going to happen. The SEC and the Big Ten is going to flex, and that's what.
So they want
equal
distribution.
They're thinking long term.
At any time, do they acknowledge that there should be more guaranteed automatic spots for the Big Ten or the SEC?
Not particularly. One of the sticking points was the overall health of the game in regards to Stuart Mandel wrote this morning. He wrote the following, talking about the SEC and the Big Ten. He says, it's ludicrous and unnecessary provision, talking about the SEC and the Big Ten wanting those automatic qualifiers. One made possible by the fact that the Power 2 conferences already negotiated their favored nation status in this new CFP contract that begins next year. Big Ten and SEC leaders will spin this as a means to reduce subjectivity in the system rather than allowing the selection committee to use its ever-shifting criteria to determine most of the participants. We can just go by their own league standings, as if the league's own convoluted tiebreakers aren't themselves confusing and arbitrary.
I'll give them that.
Yeah, that part is correct. The Big Ten and SEC have by far the most national brand programs between them that will always get the highest TV ratings and the biggest crowds, but they also comprise just 25% of the FBS schools. That is a BS argument right there.
That is a BS argument.
I mean, I'm sorry. Yes, they only have 25% of all the FBS schools, but when 84% of that FBS programs are watching those two conferences, what else would you do if you're ESPN or Fox? You want more of that product because you could sell more advertising, which means more money to their bottom line. So that argument right there is out the door. He finishes by saying it's not generally a winning formula to alienate 75% of your customers, but the two ruling parties are only governing for themselves. I got news for you, Stuart. There is no czar of college football. These individual commissioners have only one thing that they're responsible for, and that is making sure that their presidents and chancellors are taken care of, period. And then hopefully, if everything else works out, everyone else in the college game is taken care of.
Well, and if you wanted to move this away from athletics and you wanted to talk about something else, an issue where equal distribution is something that they're asking for and kind of setting it up and mirroring what we have here, it doesn't work the same. It doesn't work the same in the argument of college basketball and the number of college basketball teams that are Division I and the number of teams that we have in the NCAA tournament. Let's do that breakdown, but I don't hear a whole lot of people griping, and I've not heard a lot of people griping. Now, I know that there's a proposal to add more teams,
yeah.
But what is the actual percentage of, let's just say right now, 68 teams, how many Division I basketball programs do we have?
Oh, it's 300, and I'll get you that number momentarily.
So
it's
364.
364. So,
yeah.
Conrad, if you want to do that math real quick, what is that percentage of Division I teams playing college basketball that get invited to the tournament that makes all the money for the NCAA?
That would be, if we round up, 19%.
19%. Ooh, well, there should be a lot more folks politicking come March Madness outside of arenas saying we want equal distribution. I can understand that. I think their biggest fear is that moving forward, it's going to be all the SEC and all the Big Ten making all of the decisions, and their voice is not going to be heard. But you can't argue with the past numbers, the 11-year trend that you said,
yeah,
and projecting that forward. But I would put it up where you have a get-together. It's not a 10-year deal. It's not a 20-year deal. It's not something that's set in stone, but you could revisit it potentially in 5 years, and maybe those trends change. Maybe everyone all of a sudden decides that they're in love with the Big 12. They love that product. They love the ACC in that product.
Well, here's my thing with this is we seem to have wrapped our heads around, and I get we don't all like it, and it's unfortunate, but when it comes to athletics as a whole, right, we've accepted that football is going to get a lot of the money. They are going to be fine, but the little sports are not going to survive in a lot of cases, probably looking at the future. This is the exact same thing as that. It's just happening within college football, and because it's in college football, people are upset that the SEC and the Big Ten are maybe getting preferential treatment when we're doing the exact same thing. It's just with college football versus your Olympic sports.
Well, here's also the difference that a lot of people, they want to make the argument. The college football playoff is not run by the NCAA. That is not an NCAA championship, okay?
March Madness is.
March Madness is. That's a completely different animal whatsoever. But if the college football playoff, if they want to give the SEC 6 automatic bids and the Big Ten 6 automatic bids or whatever they want to do, and I know I've already read some quotes this morning because whoever's running their mouth in New Orleans gave it to Heather Dinich. They've also given it to Dennis Dodd, basically saying that if the SEC and the Big Ten get their way, this now turns into an invitational tournament. This is not a tournament in which it is equal. It is basically an SEC Big Ten invitational. Well, the data will support that it probably should be. based on everything that we've seen over the last 11 years once the college football playoff came into existence. Now, if the NCAA was running college football, which we've already seen that it's been a disaster when the NCAA's run anything, you could also talk about, okay, you got to have equal opportunity for the Boise's and the UABs and people like that to have access to the championship. Well, in a perfect world, this before the pandemic and before NIL and the transfer portal, absolutely. But it just can't happen now because those type schools can't afford a $20.5 million payroll. There's no way. So why would you give access to one of those other conferences when it is going to be a shot and of them potentially getting to the big game or even winning a game when it comes to the college football playoff?
Yeah. Look, if I have no problem with this, and you might be against this, Pat, and Conrad, you might as well. But if we can pacify the folks that are wanting more guaranteed spots or whatever that looks like, then let's just expand it out. But the line shares should still go to the SEC and the Big Ten. So instead of having potentially 14 or 16 teams, I'm okay with 24.
Listen, I am too. Like, I have no problems with them doing what the FCS does.
I mean, it's worked well for them.
It's worked beautifully for them. I mean, the calendar works out well. They still play the same number of games, and then they find themselves playing a lot of football, and they crown a champion every year.
Yeah.
And it seems to work really well. I'm like you, Landrum. I have no problem with that whatsoever because I'm of the opinion more football I'm great with. I got no issues with that whatsoever. But it's going to be interesting because, you got one more year of this current CFP, and then moving forward based on what recommendation comes out of this meeting between the Big Ten and the SEC, because next week you will have a meeting of the College Football Playoff Management Committee. That is when it is expected that there will be a recommendation made coming out of this meeting in New Orleans. This is what we're looking at. And at that point in time, that's when the fun really will begin in regards to people jockeying for position and seeing if Jim Phillips and Brett Yormark really want to continue the saber rattling and die on that hill.
All right, so refresh my memory how the voting process works when these things are proposed. Who all gets a vote?
Well, here's the thing. So last year, when they decided to vote on the potential new contract that goes into effect next year, they basically ceded power to the SEC and Big Ten. The SEC and the Big Ten, each conference is they're going to get 29% of all the monies that's going to be divided up. And if I'm doing the math correct, I'm seeing if I have it here in my notes. So that's $1.3 billion a year, okay? That is going to be divided up between the SEC and the Big Ten, which means that's $21 million per school in the Big Ten and the SEC that they will get just from the college football playoff, which is also interesting because what is the number that we keep hearing from the House settlement? $20.5 million. You see how that kind of works out?
Yeah.
How that kind of equals out your balance sheet, so to speak, based on your college football playoff. So they ceded that control. So with 29% of the monies going to the SEC and to the Big Ten, because they said, look, we're the ones that have provided the most product into the college football playoff. We should get paid more money. They agreed with that. Well, if you agreed with giving them more money, then why would you have a problem with the SEC and the Big Ten getting an extra or two extra automatic qualifiers over your conference?
Yeah, you've already conceded.
You've already
that
given
they deserve,
them money.
Right.
You've already admitted behind closed doors that without the Big Ten and the SEC, we're doomed. Like, we have nothing. So, that's why, and we'll hear Pat Forty's comment we played yesterday on the show about him wanting the other conferences to dare the SEC and the Big Ten. Go ahead and do that. And we'll see how that works out, because that's when Fox and ESPN decide, okay, well, we'll do our own thing, and you guys go to TNT and Sinclair and be on Channel 21 on weekends or whatever you want to do, like live. I mean, it's just not it's not a feasible concept for these conferences to go against the SEC and Big Ten. Is it fair to those other conferences? No. But I remember a third grade teacher I had, Miss Lambert, at Matthews Elementary School in Sykeston, Missouri. You know what she told me?
Life ain't fair.
Life is not fair. And once you realize that, you're going to be better off.
You had a great teacher.
That's dang right. All right, we're live at Social Taco. That's kind of where we're going this morning. We want to hear from you. The text line is wide open. Is this fair, unfair that the SEC and the Big Ten are requesting this, that they're wanting all these automatic qualifiers? And we'll listen to some sound. Ross Dellinger was on the Paul Feinbaum show yesterday afternoon. He had some interesting things to say about the SEC. Also, Pat Forty's controversial comments, kind of blasting the SEC and Big Ten. We'll get into all that this morning. Our first guest is not until noon, but come on by and see us. We're here at Social Taco.
Yeah, it's a Taco Tuesday, but you know by now it's not just the tacos. You can enjoy the Mexican pizzas, the burritos, the bowls, whatever you're looking for. It's amazing. Come and try it out. And so many of you that have come up to us just when we're out and about and said, hey, I'm going to take you up on that. And we continue to have new faces and some of the old guard that shows up every Tuesday. But we broadcast until 2 o'clock. The mix and match combination tacos. Check out the menu before you get here because there's so many great items to choose from. Go to socialtaco.bar for more information. Right here in the square, as Pat said, next to City Hall in Homewood. Broadcasting until 2 o'clock. We love Tuesdays. We love seeing you. It's three-man front. We are Jocks 94.5.
It's 1024, Jocks 94.5. We're live at Social Taco. Be here until 2 o'clock. Please stop on by and see us. Doors open up at 11.
Yes, they do. And we have so many friends that join us, and I'm sure that one in particular will be joining us very, very soon. But, yeah, come into Social Taco. Once again, socialtaco.bar for more information. Don't forget, on the weekends, the Bottomless Tapas brunch, 10 to 2:30 on Saturday and 10 to 2:30 on Sunday.
So Pat Forty was really the first person that started yelling from the highest hilltops this weekend in regards to this meeting going on in New Orleans between the SEC and Big Ten. Just to kind of refresh your memory, this is what Pat Forty from Sports Illustrated had to say on his podcast.
This is terrible. This is further greed. This is unchecked power mongering. There's no leadership. There's no leaders. We don't have any leaders. We have strongmen and grifters. That's all we got. We have strongmen and grifters who are running college athletics. They don't give a damn about the whole. They don't give a damn about any other sports. All they want is more money and more control for the things for the top people. That's what the SEC and the Big Ten want most of all. And the ACC and the Big 12 are willing to go along with it because they're going to get 2 bids out of this. And everybody's scared to death that the SEC and the Big 10 are going to go off and do their own thing, to which, again, I say, dare them. Dare them to do it, because if they really want to go down as the worst people in the history of college sports, that's where they're headed. This is far enough that you are shoving stuff so far down people's throats that nobody is sitting there clamoring to say, God, the playoff was no good. We need more teams, and we need more automatic bids for the people that already have all the advantages.
There you go.
So hearing his comments again, he is going from, well, while it might make good business sense, from a moral standpoint, you are not looking out for everybody. Is it? That's what I heard.
Yeah, and then he takes a shot at Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey by calling them grifters. The definition of a grifter is someone who swindles people out of money through fraud.
Would that be the same as a charlatan?
Pretty much. So basically, he's saying that Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey, they're swindling people out of money through fraud.
What is the fraud?
That's what I would love for him to
I would
define.
love for him to tell me where the fraud is.
Yeah.
It just sounds like a lot of jealousy to me. A little bit of jealousy, a little bit of envy mixed together. Yeah.
Well, listen, we've all had to come to grasp with the new age of college football. I'm talking about NIL, transfer portal. There's a lot of listeners in our audience. They just don't like college football right now. They don't like what it has become, and it has nothing to do whether it's Alabama or Auburn winning a national championship. It's just changed, and it's taking all of us to get used to. We're having to adopt the NFL model for college football. That's why it's so new to us. But to go out there and to call Tony Petitti and Greg Sankey swindlers, and that they're taking people's money because of fraud, Pat, I hate to tell you, man, just like I'll tell Stuart Mandel if they were on this program, you tell me where the game of college football would be without the Big Ten or the SEC. Where would it be? You see a couple games a week that draw
Not where it is.
by maybe 200,000-300,000 people, maybe. Who's going to buy that product? I mean, I'm talking about from an advertising standpoint.
So he's indirectly calling him Greg Snakey.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's the line out of the Big 12 from the folks in Kansas.
Mm-hmm.
That's what they like to say. So, listen, if they don't like the direction that the SEC and the Big Ten want to take this, then you guys develop yourself a consortium with everybody else, and then you take your product to the open market, and you see what you can get for it, and you see how many people are going to be interested. But this line of thinking of that you're alienating 75% of the American public. Have you seen the television ratings in Los Angeles, California for college football? Have you seen the college football television ratings in New York City for college football? There's plenty of other things that those people watch. They're not watching SEC or Big Ten football. I mean, you could put Southern Cal and UCLA in the Big Ten all day long, and that's not going to change 1 ounce of the TV viewership that you're going to have in the Big Ten Conference. So, anyway, that's just the continued conversation. We would love to hear from you. 1-800-239-WJOX. The Courtesy GMC text line is open. 205-834-9450. I see Pelham Gator has made his way in. He's one of the VIPs. He gets in here a little bit early.
He's got some smell good on. You put some smell good on?
Is this your day to bathe? Is this your day to bathe?
Yeah, I finally took a bath.
I'm estimating he's a good 7 yards away from us.
You still smell me?
Well, yeah, but it doesn't smell bad. It's not obnoxious. Just smells like you bathed.
Bring it back.
Good. Okay.
Is that your car? Are you wearing your car?
No, it's
I'm just kidding. That was a joke.
I like how he looked down at his
He
pullover.
was looking down and said, "Did I spill some Dracar on me?"
Is this brand Jakar?
Speaking of that, that's a
Good to
good
see you,
looking shirt
PG.
you got on.
Oh, thank you, man. Our buddy
Let me
Patrick
gu-
Isbell,
I was about to say, let me guess, 18 South.
18 South and Homewood.
That looks good.
Amazing. Me and my wife went in there this past weekend, and we went in before the Auburn-Alabama game. And, wow, the selection now – and I'm glad, but my wife bought some stuff, and
So now it's
that
a problem.
It could potentially become a problem,
I
Pat.
understand.
But, yeah, 18 South and Homewood, it's right there at the edge. It's that new development right there off of Green Springs. And, hey, they got a courtyard with AstroTurf and Adirondack chairs and a
Folks
big
watching the
projector
games,
screen
yeah.
if you want to do some shopping or just hang out. But, yeah, go and see our friends at 18 South there in Homewood especially. That's the new store. And, man, they got a great selection for you guys and also for you, your significant other, your girlfriend or your wife.
Speaking of Homewood, we're here in Homewood. Social Taco, come on by and see us. This is Three-Man Front on Jocks 94.5.
Ah, 10:34. Social Taco in Homewood, Landrum Pat, Pelham Gators here. And now Don making his way up the steps as he was chanting something as he came in. Oh, look at this. Look at this. He has got one shoe in hand. He's got sock. Thank God he's wearing a sock. What is going on over here?
Wait, so Don showed up with one shoe on and the other
He's
shoe in
got
his
one
hand?
shoe on, and he's got one shoe in tow
What?
Okay.
where he is holding the shoe.
Okay. A lot of
And-
questions there.
Yeah, me too.
I am seeing that
Someone
there are
take a
no
picture.
laces in the shoe. All right, well, he's putting the shoe on now that I'm calling him out.
I mean, he's lucky that Social Taco let him in.
Well, if he was barefoot, there's no way that he was getting in.
Yeah, no
But he's got shoes
no
on
shirt,
now.
no
Thank-
shoes, no
thank
service.
goodness. Yeah, no dice, no bueno, as we say here in the terrace. No bueno.
We do have SEC basketball tonight. Both Alabama and Auburn will be playing tomorrow night. 6 o'clock tonight, there's a pair of games. Oklahoma is at Florida. Texas A&M at Mississippi State. At 8 o'clock, it'll be South Carolina at LSU. So not the A&M Mississippi State game. That will be a good one to watch, but I think the other two will be snooze fest. Meanwhile, tomorrow's the big day. You've got Vandy at Kentucky. That's very interesting. But once again, Landrum, we've got 8 o'clock, Arkansas at Auburn, Bama at Mizzou at the same time. Why? Can't we have like a 6-day window where you move these tip times around for Alabama and Auburn?
Was it like this last year? I do not
I
remember.
don't remember it. I always remember them playing on different days.
Yeah, I don't
Yeah.
remember it being like this in the past.
No, maybe that's just the way that it works with Texas and Oklahoma coming in. I don't know, but I'm with you. And there's no way, but these, I mean, ESPN, I would think that staggering that would probably help. The 6 o'clock game, though, they usually reserve that for the Eastern time zone.
Yes.
Typically,
Yes.
where you don't have a 9 o'clock tip.
Yeah, you
in
understand that.
Gainesville or South Carolina.
Right.
So maybe that's just the way that it works out. But no, Alabama and Missouri, there's going to be a lot of eyeballs on that. That's a huge game for Alabama. It's a huge game for Missouri.
Yeah.
When you look at the standings, but Auburn and Arkansas, I think Cal going into Neville Arena and facing off against Bruce Pearl with his new team, that would be interesting to a lot of college basketball fans.
So taking a look at the NCAA net rankings, 4 of the top 6 teams in the net rankings are from the SEC. Auburn first, Florida fourth, Tennessee fifth, Alabama sixth. The SEC leads the nation with 8 teams ranked in the top 25 and 13 in the top 50 of the net. SEC teams have amassed 84 quad 1 wins and 138 wins against quad 1 and quad 2 teams combined. Yesterday when I was on that show in Waco, we did spend a couple minutes talking about SEC basketball.
Did they throw out the stat?
Yes, they said, hey,
They did?
they said, good luck on the SEC
That thing is
getting above
everywhere now.
500.
Yeah.
That was great. And I said, well, you know what? Maybe the Big 12 can get over 500 before it's all said and done. And they started laughing. They said, I don't
What's
think
funny
that's
about
gonna
that
happen.
is yesterday when we were taping the podcast, the Inferno podcast, and Andy Kennedy came on, and he thought that was just great. So now it's. And I said, Coach, you have to understand, though, because he was giving Carl Ravitch a hard time because they were buddies at their time at ESPN.
Yeah.
He said, I love Ravi. I said, well, it didn't originate with Ravi. That originated with a basketball coach by the name of Archie Miller from Rhode Island, which is hilarious. There's Taylor.
Hey, Taylor.
He always looks great.
Come here.
Look at
We
him.
haven't talked to you in a while. Come here.
Yep. Sit down, Taylor.
Sit down. Let's check in with you. Let's see what's going on in the world of Tay-Tay. Can we call you Tay-Tay? Can we call you Tay-Tay?
Call me whatever you need to.
Hey, Tay-Tay. Good to see you.
What's up?
Just
Pat?
don't call me late for dinner.
No, never. You were right on time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I heard you help my boy out because he forgot Valentine's Day was on the 14th.
I don't think he forgot. He just knew
procrastinated.
he had a great plan in his back pocket.
Did he?
Yeah.
Okay.
They hooked us up.
Well,
big
he
time.
played the friend card.
Do you have good Valentine's with Hollywood?
I learned so much.
I bet you did.
Then I saw
Landrum got to,
Hollywood the next day. They're courtside for the Auburn Alabama game.
Oh, yeah.
Yep.
I'm sure you learned a lot about Homewood Friday night.
We learned a ton about Homewood.
Yep.
Yep.
As long as Dorothy had a good time.
She
right?
did have a great time, and thank you for doing that. And when I called Taylor, though, Pat, I told him, I said, I don't like playing this card, but I feel like I have to now.
Well, one thing's for sure, with the restaurants that you guys have in your arsenal, it's incredible because whatever cuisine you would like on that particular day, but you also have an opportunity because I had my son's engagement party up here on the terrace,
right, yeah.
and it was phenomenal. It was fantastic. A lot of people from out of town was here, and it was the first time that they had an experience here at Social Taco, and they loved it. So,
Well, yeah. Thank y'all for trusting us with it. We have a blast doing stuff up here, private events and stuff. It's fun now. It's, mid-February. We've already got people booking Christmas parties for next year.
Yeah.
Are you serious?
Yeah.
Already?
There's some people,
people
need
are
to
that organized.
overplan, and that's okay.
How far out can we do a reservation? That's what I need to know.
Technically, on the website, 14 days.
14, okay.
Yeah. But, certain people get certain privileges.
Landrum,
wow.
go ahead and make your Valentine's reservation for next year right now.
Can you have a two-top ready
A
for me for
two-top,
tomorrow?
maybe not next to a single at the bar on Valentine's.
Hey, he was fine. He was entertaining.
He always is entertaining.
It was great. But no, they had fresh picked roses. They put in a little.
Look at you.
Yeah. Shout out to Dimples Flowers.
I'm so
Dimples,
proud of
okay.
you.
Yeah,
You've
they
come so
promote all
far
that. Well, we're trying.
since I've known you.
The thing that I love about it though, and that's with you can get it here, but also with the bottomless tapas brunch, but also at Soho Standard, you don't have to commit to one big plate. You can try a lot of different
y'all
things.
did it really wise.
And
Y'all
so we did a lot of small
Tapas.
plates, so
There you
we could try a lot of different things, and it was
nibbled their way through the
yeah.
menu.
And I went through sparkling water like nobody's business.
Topo Chico.
Topo Chico.
So it was interesting because Landrum and you and I have been up here doing this show now, what, a year and a half?
It's been over that. It's been more than that.
Yeah,
and
more
then
than
you
that.
include the primetime show that we
Yeah,
did.
we did a primetime show here.
right, yeah.
Back before
Tacos
we,
After Dark.
Yeah, before we
Those sound fun.
yeah, before we there's a whole joke there, but I'm not going there.
Conrad, thoughts?
I just caught it.
I plead the fifth.
But this group gets a little rowdy on Tuesdays. I mean,
Yeah,
I
we
know.
kind of like it that way. Though.
Well, I mean, we've had to have some Homewood police presence here for a couple weeks. Just
Walt,
kind of
shout out.
Yeah, Officer Walt
Yeah.
from Homewood PD. He's had to come in here and just kind of, sit with arm's distance from Landrum to make sure that the autograph seekers and the selfie takers are.
Well, they know where you
controlled.
are now. They know how to find you. So,
They do.
yeah.
They do.
But all kidding aside, we're very proud of the folks that take time out of their day to come up here every
It's
Tuesday.
been awesome to see this thing grow and to see. I mean,
Despite
they're-
Don and Pelham Gator and some of the questionable riffraff that come up here.
Don Don's looking at us like, "What'd you say about me?"
It's just good to have the listeners of Jocks 94.5
That's right,
come
and it's
take
awesome. I
part.
mean, y'all have got probably 50, 60 people coming and going throughout.
Oh yeah, it's tremendous.
Throughout the show. There's always, I mean, you come up here at 12 o'clock, there's 20, 25 people up here every week.
There's no lie. There was one week. There was a lady that was probably Don's age,
So quite young.
and
Methuselah.
and remember she was from Coleman County. She was by herself, and she was sitting at
Yep.
a table. And Landrum, if we don't recognize you, we will try to get up during a break, and we will say hello. Thank
Touch
you for
base,
thanks for
inquire.
coming
Yeah.
by, or whatever the case may be. And Landrum and I sat down with her, and she was by herself from Coleman County, listens to Jocks, listens to our show, and she just said, "You guys sound like you're having so much fun on Tuesdays. I had to come down here. I've never been down here
That's
before."
awesome.
But she said all the way back there,
Yeah.
just listened to the show and enjoyed her meal, but drove all the way from Coleman just to sit down and break bread and have some nachos.
Well, testament to you guys and to y'all's listeners who come up here and support y'all. So
Well, and,
really
and there's
cool.
and there's folks that will walk down, like if we got to go down to the dining room, we walk down from the terrace. I've had people that have stopped us and said we had two women from Wetumpka
Yes.
that listened to our show either on the app or on Jock 740, and they wanted to come up. Or there are people that don't want to, invest in.
They don't want to rub elbows with some of the so-called regulars.
It
and
just
I get
depends
that.
on the volume of Don that day.
Yeah. And
Maybe
he's
they'd
pretty
like to go
loud today
downstairs.
because of Auburn's win.
that's right.
So
Did you hear him when he came in?
I wasn't in here.
He was
Yeah.
okay, chanting "It's great to be."
Well, it is.
I don't want to tell on him, but I will. And then he walked up, and then he had one of his shoes in his hand.
What I do now. That's Don for you.
Yes, it is.
all right, that is Taylor from
Taylor, thank you, man.
the
Hey, thank you, guys.
wonderful restaurants you have here.
Appreciate y'all.
Yeah.
Sneak peek menu update coming in like a week and a half, 2 weeks. To
Right here?
Social Taco.
Really?
Yeah. Some new stuff. Some fun stuff. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah. probably next week you are going to get some previews.
Can we?
we'll
Yeah.
say.
Can we be some taste
yeah,
testers?
Yeah, some taste testers. Yeah, we
Okay.
got to keep it hush hush though, right?
Okay.
Yeah.
I think you need to have one item that's like really big and it costs a lot, but it'd be like a pinata that somebody has to bust open.
We could do that with the Modelo
Yeah.
can kind of hanging over the front door.
Yeah.
Maybe just drop some minis of Modelo.
Like a
There you
pinata of cheese, a pinata of queso.
queso.
Mm-hmm.
There
How would
go.
you catch it?
Take the
Lando?
queso bath.
Okay, just a bath.
It's a bath.
Got it.
You give
Yeah,
somebody a
that's fine.
T-shirt that they can wear. You do a picture. You put it on the wall.
It could be a thing.
I took a queso bath.
Yeah.
Thank you, thank you,
Thanks.
Taylor.
Thanks for the great idea.
Hey, Tay, great
thank
to see you.
guys.
I've got
Appreciate
plenty
y'all.
of them.
Thanks, Tay Tay.
Oh,
Are we still on?
yeah, we are.
Okay.
We're such the married couple. We decide at the same time, the exact same way. We continue live here at Social Taco in Homewood. The door's officially opening 15 minutes from right now, but if you come up, we will not turn you away. You can join us as we broadcast live. Social Taco in Homewood. It's three-man front. We are Jocks 94.5.
It is 10 minutes until the top of the hour. This is three-man front on Jocks 94.5 on this Taco Tuesday. Come by and see us. The doors are open right now. Taylor just gave me the thumbs up. So, yes, you can come in right now. Join us at Social Taco.
Well, it's not quite time for no shoes, no shirt yet because there is still some cold weather hanging around. So make sure you schedule your checkup now from a Train comfort specialist. Train has been recognized for 10 consecutive years as America's most trusted HVAC brand and our exclusive home comfort partners here at Jocks. So go and visit train.com to find a comfort specialist near you.
Courtesy GMC and Trustful off of exit 32, I-459. They bring us the Courtesy GMC text line.
Yep. Jake texting into the show says Don been drinking some Lee County moonshine this morning. I don't even drink. He does not drink. I've never seen him drink. Yeah, and can you imagine him? No.
Maybe
Drinking.
he would be a quiet drunk.
Maybe he is. Maybe he gets mean.
I'm louder since I've been sober.
He says he's louder since he's been sober, if you can't hear him, which I'm sure you probably can. Mike is in Huntsville listening on the ump. Thank you, Mike. And he says, so tired of these crying babies, 40, Wasserman, Auerbach, just a bunch of participation trophy, whiny arses. Well done, Mike. What does this read?
Did you write that text, or was that really from someone from Huntsville?
It was really look. There's a 256.
Okay.
No, that's genuine. Cody says, but still only 50% winning record against itself. That was probably one of the
That's true.
the stats that you threw out.
Yeah.
I'm starting to do that now on everything. This one rolls in. Wesley in Chalkville says, I don't disagree with any points y'all made about the college football playoff, and most national pundits are arguing in bad faith, but I believe there should not be any auto bids. Rank the teams 1 through 12 or 4, 14, and 16, and let it play out. Most years that would include 4 to 6 SEC teams.
He is correct there. That if you just ranked it based on history, because the numbers that I gave you based on 11 years of the CFP and their rankings, the SEC would average a little over 5 teams per year. So would the Big Ten.
Well, and would it alleviate some if you just expanded the number of teams that were in there?
Listen, I like your idea of 24. Just do FCS.
Do 24. Would that increase the pot of money if you did 24?
I don't think so. But right now, some of the reporting out of New Orleans is saying that ESPN, just like they did when the SEC was talking about potentially having a 9th game in conference. Remember, ESPN says we're not paying for that.
Yeah.
We're already giving you a lot of money. Well, I think ESPN is basically the same right now in regards to the CFP. Like, we're already giving you billions of dollars, $7 billion to be exact. Why do we need to give you more money? Like, if you guys want to play more games, sure, we'll broadcast it, but we're not going to give you any more money. But see, that's where the ESPN could sub-license to TNT. That would just be more games for TNT because that's what TNT did this year.
This one coming out of the state of Tennessee, Pat. I would love to know how many years of radio that y'all each have. I love listening to y'all. My favorite radio show ever. Well, thank you very much, listener from Tennessee.
I've been very fortunate. I started my radio career in 1993. So I've been working in this industry now for 32 years.
Mine is 2003. When I was still in school, working an internship, and got an internship at then AM 690, WJOX.
Yep.
Been a minute.
Yeah, so we've got over 50 years of broadcast experience between the two.
Way to make that a promo.
Hey, I started in 2020. You can add mine too.
Yeah.
So that's over 51 years.
Yeah.
We'll add up Conrad's.
Yeah, that would, yeah. We might get up to
We might get
55.
if we could get to almost 60, that'd be huge.
Yeah.
Drake asks, when it comes to smaller sports, do you think it would hurt softball?
Unfortunately, I think all of these smaller sports
They're hurting right now.
or the non-revenue generating sports are going to suffer once this House settlement becomes a reality, like law. I think it's going to be April, I think, when that comes to fruition. And I hate it. I really do. This is the situation you're in. You have to pay the players, and because of the way the genie's now out of the bottle, there's just certain aspects that these athletic departments they're not going to be able to pay the kind of money that a lot of people expect them to pay moving forward. It's not sustainable. We talk about college football not being sustainable. Don't know how you can, be able to fund those other sports, unfortunately.
And another one coming in, NCAA basketball tournament expansion. Select 96 teams, top 32 teams placed in a bracket. Bottom 64 have to play a one-game play-in to set the tournament bracket field.
It's interesting because our three-man front Twitter poll question of the day is reports indicate that next year the NCAA basketball tournament will expand from 68 to 76 teams. What is your preferred number of teams to participate in the big dance? This is staggering. 90.6% of our audience, and we've almost got 300 votes, 68. Keep 68. It as is. And then 76 is 4.7%, and all teams eligible, remember that was Coach K's idea before he retired, was just put everybody in. Put all 300 and something teams in the tournament, is at 4.7. So 90.6% of our audience says the NCAA basketball tournament does not need to be expanded. Keep it at 68.
I'm fine with that.
I'm fine with it, too.
I'm also not digging my heels into the ground saying that you're going to ruin the tournament if you expand it to more teams. It just depends on the format. If you have play-in games, that's exciting.
But, that's staggering. 91%.
Yeah, that's a lot.
To have 91% of any audience agree on something?
Well, now that state of Alabama is so healthy in college basketball, everybody likes it.
That's true. Well, I was going to say, if the state of Alabama had legalized sports wagering, I think more teams, the better, right?
Remember when we used to be good in football in this state?
Were we?
A long time ago.
I kind of forgot.
Now it's basketball.
Remember that 2009, 2010, 2011, 2012, 2013? Remember that run?
What a magical time that was.
Remember that run?
Yeah, that was a heck of a run.
Whew, crazy.
We continue live from Social Taco. Come and join us. Welcome back in live from Social Taco. The doors have just opened. We got Pelham Gator Don Matthew is here. You can join us as well as we broadcast until 2 o'clock on this Mix and Match Taco Tuesday, socialtaco.bar for more information. You want to check out the menu before you get in here. Always a good idea. Also, the award-winning margaritas, frozen or on the rocks. You want to go with $1 cerveza, as FSU Dave does when he joins us a little bit later on. You can do that as well, but they have all kinds of great food from nachos, huevos rancheros. You want to go with some of the more interesting dishes that they have that are absolutely amazing, or you just want to get some tacos. That's fine. They can dumb it down for you to meet your taste, or they can fancy it up for you as well. Socialtaco.bar for more information. We appreciate it.
So we've been talking a lot about what's going on down in New Orleans, Louisiana. Yesterday, Ross Dellinger, he was on the Paul Feinbaum show. And one of the other interesting aspects of these meetings is that there's the potential that the Southeastern Conference, they're going to potentially come out of this meeting and say, you know what, it is time for us to go to 9 conference games. And the reason they would go to the 9 conference games is because then they would work out some type of scheduling agreement with the Big Ten Conference. So this is what Ross Dellinger told Paul Feinbaum yesterday right here on Jocks 94.5 about that 9-game SEC schedule.
An SEC school play 9 conference games. Did they play 1 game against the Big Ten, home or away? It would probably rotate, right, every year. Then they would probably play 2 games against an FCS or G5. But those schools, I think there's 4 of them, Paul, that play every year, an ACC rival at the end of the year. You would think those games would stay. So there will be a little inequality in the schedule, but we don't exactly know the details of all this, and I think they'll probably get ironed out over the next, well, this is a huge meeting this week, Wednesday.
There you go. That was what Ross Dellinger told Paul Feinbaum yesterday. So basically the SEC would play 9 conference games. Now, if you're the likes of South Carolina, and let's just take Florida, for example, that's where the inequality he's talking about, because Florida would have the 9 conference games. Well, they already play Miami from the ACC, so that would be their 10th game. They already play Florida State. That would be their 11th game. So if an Alabama and Auburn, they play their 9 conference games, that would open them up to continue to play 3 FC. Well, they'd play 1 Big Ten opponent, but then you would have 2 FCS opponents that you could still have on your schedule. But if you're Florida, you're already playing 2 more Power 4 programs, right, and then you would have to play a lettuce game, so to speak. So the inequality would be there, but by playing that 9th conference game, that would be on the equal footing with the Big Ten. So that would give you more windows in which you could schedule a game every single season with a Big Ten opponent.
Well, and not in the case of Florida and Florida State or South Carolina and Clemson, but that would maybe raise the question to some of these programs that have rivalries with certain schools, and they have them, and maybe they're not viewed as what they used to be, or saying, why are we still playing this game? Maybe that question is raised, and you start seeing some of these teams going, you know what, it just doesn't make sense to have this matchup anymore. I'm talking about Georgia and Georgia Tech.
Yeah, that would be one that potentially could be on the books. Meanwhile, there is another NCAA eligibility case that is trying to get into a courtroom as of today. Georgia baseball player Dylan Goldstein, who played in JUCO, is seeking an additional year of eligibility in light of the NCAA's waiver related to the Diego Pavia case. His lawyers want him eligible this weekend and are asking for a hearing today.
Whoa.
Now, there's already been a couple of cases that got thrown out of court. It was not a slam dunk win. I know a lot of people are trying to piggyback off of the Diego Pavia case. Some have won, but as of late, there have been a couple of losses by players trying to gain.
What was the verdict
eligibility
with the one in Tennessee for the Tennessee player that started?
If I'm not mistaken, it was turned down.
It was turned down.
I believe so. Yep. But now there's a Georgia baseball player that is looking to get relief immediately.
Now, the kid, though, in that instance, it was a Division II school that came into question. It was not a JUCO.
Not a JUCO. So we'll see if that has any bearing whatsoever. Phone number is 1-800-239-WJOX. The Courtesy GMC text line is 205-834-9450 if you're listening to us on the UMP up in Huntsville, or Jock 740 in the capital city of Montgomery. Of course, right here, Jocks 94.5 in Birmingham. We welcome your interaction. We talked about Joe Lunardi, his seeding after Saturday when it came to the SEC. There's still 3 number 1 seeds, Auburn, Bama, Florida. Tennessee, Texas A&M are your 2 seeds. Kentucky, still a 3. You've got Mizzou and Ole Miss at a 6. Mississippi State a 7. Texas a 10. Vandy 11. And it's really odd to me, Landrum, to continue to see Oklahoma and Arkansas still in the tournament, according to Joe Lunardi. But he has got both of those schools right now, before they play this week, last 4 in. And Georgia would be one of the first 4 out.
Yeah, I don't see it right now. But Joe Lunardi, he does this a lot more than I do. And whoever he's talking to, if he thinks that the analytics and the metrics, it's just hard for me to imagine an Oklahoma team right now being in the NCAA tournament. As bad as they have looked and as lopsided as some of those games have been, whether at home or on the road, I can't see them. Maybe more so I could make the argument for Arkansas, and that might not even be fair as well. I realize that it's top to bottom. The SEC is very tough, but is college basketball, is the rest of the field just that bad right now?
Well,
or is it the non-conference schedule that's continuing to bolster these guys up in the eyes of the committee members and people that Lunardi's talking to?
So Eli Huff is going to join the program at 1 o'clock. He covers the Missouri Tigers for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. And I was reading an article from him over the weekend, and basically from the Missouri side of things, they believe the number to get into the NCAA tournament as far as SEC wins go is 8. That if you go 8-10 in conference, you're good based on the strength of the SEC. I don't know if that's a real number or not, but that's the way Mizzou is looking at things. Because with Oklahoma and Arkansas, I just don't see how those teams can even get remotely close to that number. I mean, we talked yesterday about Porter Moser at Oklahoma. I mean, he is 20 games under 500 as the head coach at Oklahoma in league play. That, of course, bleeds over from the Big 12 to the Southeastern Conference. So it's just odd to me to see that both Oklahoma and Arkansas are still in the tournament, according to Joe Lunardi.
Yeah, Arkansas right now, according to the net rankings, 42nd. And they have a 3-8 record in Quad 1 games. Meanwhile, Oklahoma, 16-9 overall. In Quad 1 games, they have more than in Arkansas Quad 1 wins. They are 4-7 overall. Would you like their wins above bubble?
Yes, the WAB is very important.
Here we go. Oklahoma is a 37 in the WAB.
Okay, so if they're on the bubble.
Arkansas is a 45.
Okay, well, that's why. The WAB is Joe Lunardi.
Explain that again for our listeners who don't know about that metric that I just discovered.
You didn't know about the WAB?
Well, I've seen the WAB. I just never went and clicked on it to see what exactly the WAB was. I guess that's on me.
The WAB is the equivalent of, like in baseball, the wins above replacement. And the wins above replacement means that if you were to take that player out of the lineup over a 162-game schedule, how many wins would be equate to him being in the lineup? Well, it is basically a team's record against a team that is considered on the bubble. And so the more positive, what is their exact? Do you have their exact number? Not their ranking, but their exact WAB number. If you have a positive, the higher the positive WAB is, the more likely of you making the NCAA tournament.
Yeah, I don't have the exact number. I just have the 45. I would have to go to is there a WAB website?
Yes.
Where do I go to the WAB?
Yes, I am trying to get there now. It's from Torvik's website.
Auburn is 1 in the WAB, and Alabama is 2 in the WAB.
Okay, and let me. I will give you. I will look for the WAB as we speak. As Conrad Van Order joins us now here on.
Conrad,
site.
you just sat down, but if you want to adjust that camera so we can see your pretty face, there you go.
Might mean to push it back towards Don.
Yeah, push it back a little bit. No, and turn it a little bit this way. Yeah. Okay. Yeah.
There you go.
Now just snuggle up next to Pat. There he is.
Yeah.
Look at Conrad brushing the hair and wearing the quarter zip.
Yeah.
That's right.
You're still sporting the colors.
Had to look nice out here for my public appearance, and we're talking about WAB, so this was a great time for me to get here.
Yeah, I'm trying. I'm trying
My
to
favorite stat.
I'm trying to get to the old the WAB stat here to give us the rankings that we need. Brand new topic of WAB and the fact that Arkansas and Oklahoma continues to be mentioned for the NCAA tournament is pretty amazing.
Did you know, Conrad, what WAB meant before it came up? Did you ever?
Before yesterday, no. Or I guess over the weekend, no. I had never heard of that, so I guess this is a stat that maybe they've privately tracked for a while, and now it's just ready for the full hard launch with the public. They had to go through a couple seasons of testing.
Is that what it is?
I don't know. I didn't know we were just making up stats now, but apparently we are.
It's not making up stats.
Well, you know what I mean. Introducing new stats. It's a real stat, but it's fresh.
I just hope that becomes a stat in the wonderful college football playoff rankings on Tuesday night.
That's the last thing we need is another metric that they can confuse us with.
Okay, so right now Auburn has the number one WAB at 10.8. As I mentioned, if you've got a positive number, the higher that positive number is, the more likely you're going to make the NCAA tournament. Alabama's number 2 in the WAB at 8.2. Florida is next at 6.6. Tennessee 6.4. So I'm going to go on down to the negative teams, okay?
Wait, so real quick, so for Auburn, they have a 10.8. So does that mean that they have 10.8 more wins than an average team would with their schedule?
Correct.
Okay.
That is correct.
Okay.
Than a team that is considered on the bubble.
Correct. So like Arkansas, for example.
So I'm going to go and I'm going to give you now the teams that are close to, for instance, Indiana has a 0.01. So they are barely above, okay? Cincinnati, TCU, Liberty, Xavier, North Texas, Boise State, Pittsburgh. Those are the teams that are borderline.
like right there on the line.
So basically they're saying that those teams that I just mentioned, Indiana, Cincinnati, TCU, Liberty, Xavier, North Texas, Boise State, Auburn would have almost 11. If they played that schedule that those teams have, Auburn would be 11 games better than what the record they currently have. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. That's the way that I read the definition for WAB. The higher the positive number you have, the more likely of you being in the NCAA tournament.
Okay, so it is like war in baseball where that number is essentially how many wins that individual player was worth to their team. Okay.
Correct.
Gotcha.
So there will be a WAB seminar at 2 o'clock today up here on the Taco Terrace. We will.
I think Don has a slideshow presentation.
Yes.
Can I throw a PowerPoint on that TV?
Yes.
Also seeing that WAB is a Scottish and dialectal English variant of the word web.
Oh. Okay.
So they say WAB over there.
WAB.
Kind of close to WAP, too.
Yeah, Conrad, I guess.
I'm just saying, we're one letter off war. I'm just saying. Very close to a lot of other acronyms.
Wham back in the day, right?
Wham, yeah. Well, there's an H.
Before he
in there,
went
right?
solo.
Yeah.
WAG.
WAG.
WAG, yeah, that's right.
WAG.
Isn't that a soccer wife?
I think that's like an any athlete wife.
What?
Any athlete wife.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a show.
It's
the WAGs.
Yeah. I guess it's any athlete wife. I thought it was soccer players, but yeah. The WAGs.
And that stands for?
I don't know.
I literally think it stands for wives and girlfriends.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
There we go.
That makes sense.
There it is. Thank you, Molly.
My mind was going somewhere else, but yeah.
Yeah. Well,
just other acronyms in that
yes.
genre.
Four-letter acronyms.
Correct.
Start with the letter M.
Milk.
That one. No. 205-834-9450. Posey said a webinar.
That would be good.
That's
Very good.
That is good.
We do need a webinar.
Is WAB the follow-up to the song?
Yeah, I think that was the joke I just made.
Okay.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Jody reminding us Florida.
Conrad gets here, and 5 minutes into it, we're already in trouble.
We're going Phil. Thank you, Conrad, for bringing that. Jody says Florida does not play Miami every year, going back to scheduling and potential schedules or rivalries.
Well, they have
we'll
been. They have been. It's not guaranteed like it is Florida State in Florida, but they have been.
Thomas says, I think expanding the NCAA tournament to 76 is a good idea. This allows mid-major, one-bid leagues, teams like Indiana State from last season to make the tournament and see what they could have been. Indiana State last year lost in the NIT Finals. UAB has been left out on the outside looking in years past.
Oh, I forgot about Indiana State and old goggles they had. They had that one guy who was a beast.
Yeah, you know who he's playing for now?
Who?
St. Louis.
Really?
Plays for the Billikens.
Interesting. They have a good NIL program, I guess?
And the reason why is because his head coach went from Indiana State to St. Louis.
Oh, so he just gotcha.
Also, Robert says Oklahoma has a big non-conference win over Arizona, Louisville, and Michigan. All three are in the top three in their conferences. That's only 3 wins Sooners have going for them right now. They should be out, though. Thank you.
Arizona wins very impressive.
Fat Joe says, tell Don I said stop talking so loud. No, that's even louder. Let's drop it. Fat Joe doesn't want to hear it.
Save it for the webinar.
Oklahoma's got a 1.3 WAB ranking.
That'll get you beat.
They're just below Drake and just ahead of West Virginia. Just another fun stat for you. If you love stats, go look up your WAB.
I'd love to hear that explanation on the WAB. This team got left out because of their WAB.
Yeah.
We're headed for it. It's going to happen.
There's no doubt about that. Well, one thing's for sure. You need to make sure that your crawl space has been properly encapsulated. That's where the APS crawl space encapsulation system, it can help stop water, keep pests out, while lowering your energy costs. The engineers at APS, they can design a custom solution for your home today, 205-951-9717. Crawl space problems don't get better over time. They get better when you call APS or go to their website, alabamaprofessional.com. APS established in 1977 to solve the most challenging issues around your home, 205-951-9717. That's alabamaprofessional.com.
We continue live from Social Taco in Homewood. You can join us as we broadcast until 2 o'clock. We got lunch started, combination tacos, Mexican pizzas, and so much more. SocialTaco.bar for more information. We continue. We'll get to your text when you send them in, 205-834-9450. Do have guests joining us. Ty Richardson from Fayetteville, Arkansas, preview tomorrow's night's game inside of Neville Arena with Coach Cal and Bruce Pearl doing battle once again. And then also Eli Hoff's going to join us from the state of Missouri at 1 o'clock to preview what is a huge matchup for Nate Oates and the Crimson Tide. They'll go on the road to take on a tournament-bound Missouri Tigers club as well. It's three-man front live from Social Taco in Homewood. Come and join us on Jocks 94.5.
Is this Wham or Wab? Since we're talking about Wab. Look at that. We got the big guns coming in now.
This is what I play every morning when I'm getting ready in my house. The wife has left. I put this on the loudspeakers.
That would not surprise
and
me
I
at all.
slide around in
actually.
my socks like risky business.
I don't doubt that one bit. So
BB and Gringo are here.
I know, that's what I'm saying. Got the heavy guns coming in right now.
Gringo just got him a new truck.
Did he really?
Yeah.
Good for Gringo.
He called me yesterday and told me to look outside, and he got a new truck. It's a pre-owned truck, but it's a good-looking truck.
Good. Fantastic. I've been spending a lot of time talking about what's going on down in New Orleans, Louisiana, between the Big Ten and the SEC. I was told last night that the SEC football coaches were in attendance for the Coach AD meetings. They were optimistic on the information that they were shared in regards to the new share cap that they're talking about from the House settlement, along with the NIL outside enforcement model, how that's going to work moving forward. Pete Thamel reported for ESPN that someone that was in that coaches meeting says this is not going to be a perfect system, but it sounds 100% better than what we currently have, end of quote. So that is interesting coming from New Orleans. Also, the coaches were not – they did not discuss the 8 or 9 game potential conference schedule for the SEC. The general feeling is that that could come maybe in Destin, which is obviously Memorial Day week. I think that is going to be the big topic discussion down there. But I would imagine what you are going to hear once these meetings conclude with the Big Ten, that there's going to be a proposed governance, a potential CFP format change. Nothing too radical that we've heard in previous potential meetings or classifications of what the CFP is going to look like in 2026, but that's what I firmly believe is going to happen, that there's going to be some type of resolution between the two conferences in regards to how they're going to move forward.
Well, and you might as well, because you're the ones that are going to be pushing the agenda, and you need to have a good drafting partner, and I can't think of anything better. So if everybody's on the same page, and look, we could use one of those interconference matchups, right?
I would be all for that. Yeah, if you just want to rotate your, it'd be interesting to see how you do it, because how's it going to go over if, like this year Texas plays Ohio State, right? And then you say, let's say Georgia gets to play Rutgers or somebody, right? Is there going to be a point of contention there? But I'm all for it. If we go to the full Power 4 schedules, whether it's 8 conference games and then 4, Big Ten SEC challenge, kind of like we see in basketball.
Are they going to do it?
Something like that, I'd be all for it.
Yeah, how would they base that scheduling model if you're in those offices? Is it going to be made for TV matchups where you're going to get the most eyeballs, but then again, you're going to hurt yourself on the back end if you're having, say, Northwestern and
Vanderbilt. I was about to say, take the low-hanging fruit there. Yeah.
Yeah, once Diago Pavia graduates in 3 years.
Well, yeah, they're a monster this year, but then 2026.
But there's also no way to guarantee it. It could look like a sexy matchup in the future, or you go ahead and you set the schedule, and that team is not what it once was. You run that risk in anything.
I was about to say, I don't know if the Texas and Michigan matchup this year looked exactly how they were expecting when they scheduled that one in advance. So
it looked drastically different by the time we got to that game than it did in August.
Yes, it did.
Yeah.
Yes, it did.
So the other conversation is going to be, does it go to 14? Does it go to 16 teams? I mean, what's going to be the recommendation that the Big Ten and the SEC, what are they going to give to the College Football Playoff Management Committee? A Big Ten source told Heather Dinich, we've got to figure out a way to get to 14 or 16. We've got to get 4 automatics. We've got to get the Big 12 and the ACC to join in. That's the goal. Based on the comments I've seen from Brett Yormark and Jim Phillips, I don't think that they're interested. I mean, unless they're going to get 4 automatic qualifiers, I mean, why would they agree to have only 2?
Yeah, I mean, I understand, the whole try to stand your ground kind of thing. I guess I just look at it as, I don't know, if you're ESPN and the powers that be that control this thing, would you not want the 16 teams instead of 14 so you can get more teams in? You don't have the buys, so you're getting more matchups. You're getting to see those top-ranked teams the entire time. You're not having to have that I guess that first weekend like this year where some of those matchups left a little something to be desired. So we'll see how it ends up, but I would imagine that's what they want in an ideal world.
And it gives you more wiggle room if the Big Ten and the SEC are dead set on having 4 guaranteed bids, then that leaves you the rest of the half of the field and however you want to do it. If it's the highest ranked group of 5 qualifier, if you have a Notre Dame criteria that's factored in there, there's more teams. But deep down, you know that if you have 4 guaranteed teams, the biggest fear with the ACC and the Big 12 is if the trend does continue and the Big 10 and the SEC make up the most of that 16 through 25, as you have a lot of representation, that's just going to be more. So the 4 guaranteed, you're actually going to be getting 6 every year from each conference instead of 3 or 4 or whatever that number is.
So Heather Dinich also talked to an ACC source, and this was a quote. It was an anonymous source, but this was her source that says, it does become a little bit of an invitational. Will there be circumstances where a Big 12 or ACC might have 3 really good and deserving teams to come in, and all of a sudden these spots are taken up by 3 other teams from the SEC or the Big 10? That's a difficult one. I also understand that is who has the gold makes a little bit of the rules, right? End of quote. I mean that's
spot. And I'm not saying that it could never happen, but what are the odds in a 10-year stretch? I mean, you might have, 1 year where the Big 12 or the ACC truly has 3 teams that we would all look at and go, oh, yeah, that's one of the 10 or 12 best teams in all of college football. I just don't, again, not trying to poo-poo on their product, but, we know who the good teams are and what are the odds that, you look at the ACC this year, all right, SMU, Clemson. Do you think that there was another team that you looked at and went, oh, yeah, they have to be in the playoff? We can't have the playoff without them.
And I couldn't remember, Connor Abbott. I'm glad you brought that up. When's the last time, whether it was in the year of the 4, and we'll have to just have a bigger sample size than the 12 because we just have the 1 year, but when's the last time there was a team from the ACC you thought, and I know save your Florida State, but you thought, oh, well, we're not getting the best representation of this playoff because this team from that conference was left out.
I don't feel like the product was watered down this year because we didn't also have Miami in the field, Yeah. I'm not saying that they're not a good team and they weren't good this year, but...
Did you think it was watered down because there wasn't an Ole Miss or Alabama?
Yes.
Do you honestly believe that, or are you just saying that to be...
No, I honestly believe that in terms of if we are looking at the peak level of competition that you could have had, I think that whether you wanted Alabama, Ole Miss, South Carolina, I think they were more deserving than
So if any of those
Indiana.
3 teams had been in, it would have been a better tournament as opposed to having Indiana or SMU.
Correct, and I would even go as far as Boise State. Now, I know that goes into the rules.
Do you think
and
it
the way
would have
that all
changed the
works.
outcome of what we got with our eventual champion?
No. I think Ohio State was inevitable.
It would
Now,
just
you might
been-
have had a different matchup with Ohio State and someone in the national championship. I don't think anybody
But
was
it would have
beating
been
Ohio
more
State.
compelling tournament if those teams would have been in the first few rounds.
Well, and the big complaint was the first round of games that weren't very
Well,
competitive.
as fun of a story as it was, if you'd have had Alabama in South Bend on that opening Friday night,
that would have been significantly better.
Yeah, that number would – I mean, it was already a good number anyway.
if you have Ole Miss and Happy Valley on that Saturday morning,
And, I mean,
is Jackson Dart throwing 4 pick sixes?
Well, that game probably wouldn't be played at 11 o'clock in the morning.
Another
That
good
is-
point.
Probably would have been played at night.
that is fair. But, I mean, and I understand why they do things with the group of 5. But, okay, we now have 2 recent examples. I thought Boise was really good this year, right? We saw them take Oregon to the wire early on. They had Genty. I thought that Cincinnati team that made the playoff a couple of years ago was really good. You can't convince me that a group of 5 team is one of the 12, 14, 16 most competitive teams every year. I understand why they're in there. But, I mean, we have examples now of letting them come to the party, and it doesn't mean anything.
So yesterday during the 1 o'clock hour, if you missed our conversation about what the potential conversation between the Big Ten and the SEC is going to be in New Orleans, there's 11 years of CFP data that is out there. And if they were to go to a 14-team model based on the history over the last 11 years, the Southeastern Conference would have had 4.7 teams per year making the 14-team playoff. The Big Ten came in at number 2 with 4.6 teams. Then the Big 12 with 2.1, the ACC 1.8, Notre Dame 0.45, and the group of 5 0.27. That's based on 14 teams, 11 years of data. If you expand it to 16 teams based on that same data, the Big Ten would have 5.3 teams that would qualify each and every year. The SEC 5, Big 12 2.4, ACC 2.1, Notre Dame 0.63, and the Group of 5 0.36. So when the SEC and the Big Ten sit down in the room tomorrow and they have this data, this is where they're going to make the recommendation to the College Football Management Committee next week in Dallas. This is where we're going with this. This is why we need 4, the Big Ten needs 4, the ACC needs 2, and the Big 12 needs 2.
But the Pat 40s of the world, people from the Big 12, the ACC, what supports their argument besides kumbaya and everybody needs equal?
It's because this is going to destroy the game moving forward. Like, this is going to destroy the storylines of Boise from last year. It's going to destroy the storyline of Cincinnati getting blown out by Alabama.
I was about to say, what is the storyline there? You made the playoff and got embarrassed. Is that more impactful than going to a bowl game and winning? Like,
It's the same.
Tulane's win over USC a couple years ago. I think that's more impactful than Boise making the playoff and getting embarrassed.
It's the same conversation that people have, that they believe that every single kid that participates in a sport, they should get some type of trophy. That's exactly, it's the same mindset. That they anticipate, and I said it yesterday on the radio show in Waco, that this is not government subsidies. The SEC's responsibility is not to make sure that Conference USA exists. Like,
No.
you can be, for instance, you could be a good neighbor to someone, okay? But it is not my responsibility to make sure.
to pay their bills.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That's not my responsibility. My responsibility is to take care of me and my family. Well, if you're Greg Sankey, your responsibility is to take care of the 16 schools that you have under your command right now and those presidents, period. It's not to prop up any other league in America. It's the SEC, period. So why Pat Forty and Stuart Mandel and Nicole Auerbach and everybody else that wanted to shut football down in 2020, they want to keep talking about, let's let everybody play, let's fund everybody. That's not reality.
Well, and Greg Sankey and Petiti and the college presidents from the member institutions that represent those two conferences, if it does start playing out that way and that trend starts and they see that it's not only destroying the other non-revenue producing sports in other conferences, then you would have to think it's going to affect those same sports in those particular conferences, meaning the SEC and the Big Ten. If that does happen, I could see them making changes and saying, all right, let's reset this. Let's figure this out. Let's try to figure out and reconfigure this pot of money. I don't think either one of those conferences is out to destroy the rest of college athletics.
No, I agree.
That doesn't help them.
The text line is open, 205-834-9450, brought to you by Courtesy GMC. This is Three Man Front live at Social Taco on Jocks 94.5. It is 11:37. We are live here at Social Taco. Come by and see us. Doors are wide open. A lot of great listeners already making their way up here on the Taco Terrace, enjoying a late lunch. Come on by and see us. We'll be here until 2 o'clock. So a story has just been released by Front Office Sports saying that Netflix is now potentially going to kick the tires on a full season package of the National Football League. Would you guys be okay with that?
I mean,
everybody's got a Netflix account, right?
Yeah, it's going to be like $30 a month now if they get this NFL package.
Yep. What they would like to look at is a Sunday afternoon package. Now, I'm not really sure how the NFL would kind of divide that stuff out. The NFL's current rights deals, including the Sunday afternoon agreements with CBS and Fox, expire after the 2033 season. The league, however, has an opt-out for most of its individual agreements after the 2029 season. But on a conference call with investors, Netflix definitely showed interest in becoming a rights holder for a full season in the National Football League. Right now they have those 2 games that they air on Christmas Day.
But aren't you ruining the NFL product by putting it on a streaming service, and you're alienating a lot of America that can't pay for that service? I'm just using arguments that we're using for college athletics.
Do you think for 1 second that an NFL owner cares anything about that?
I would hope that they do, but no, I do not.
I'm interested. I'm looking up
Maybe a couple of owners.
How many Amazon Prime Video subscribers you have compared to Netflix, because obviously that's where the Thursday night football games are, and I know that was a big
I would like to
point of
know. I would
contention.
like to have the numbers from Amazon. How many people bought their service that had no intention of buying their service, just strictly for the NFL?
Well, here's the other question that I have. Does the Netflix games on Christmas Day, are they available for international Netflix? Like, for instance, if you go overseas and you have a Netflix account.
Oh,
right?
could you watch it in Germany, for example?
Yeah.
That's a good question.
I'm just curious about that.
I don't know, but if this package includes a halftime show like we got from Beyonce,
There you go.
sign up like
You want one
five.
of those,
you
like-
sign up 5 artists and you put them on rotation.
Every week?
Yeah.
Have a different
You want
artist?
that on every week?
It was good.
No, it was fantastic. I just don't know if they have the budget.
So,
I don't know.
so Amazon Prime has 217 million subscribers. Netflix has over 300 million.
Okay.
That's a lot of people.
Yeah.
That's a lot
Is
of
that,
people.
that's obviously worldwide?
Yeah, yes, worldwide.
Okay.
So in North America, there are 90 million Netflix subscribers.
Okay. They drew 24 million on Christmas Day
Okay.
for their games.
So that's
Until-
what they got. That's what we got. What for the college football playoff?
Yeah, for the well, it wasn't even. I mean, it was more than the championship game.
Yes, okay. On Christmas Day this past year, when Netflix aired the Chiefs game, that was the first time that one outlet has distributed an NFL game across the globe. So the entire world was able to watch that.
If
you had
I'm
a
watching
account.
Netflix in Norway, does that mean that there's a lot of Norwegian films that are coming across my crawl?
So there's different. I know there are different, like even American shows, for example. So like, I don't know, like Friends, right? Okay, I don't know if Friends is on Netflix, but let's say you can't watch Friends on Netflix in America, but you might be able to in Britain.
Do you call it
They have
Amigos in Spanish-speaking countries?
Maybe so. But I do know they have different, for whatever reason, different things are available for you based on what Netflix or what country your Netflix account is through.
How many times have you stumbled, Conrad, on a Netflix show where you read it and you're like, oh, this is new and it should be really good, and then you get to it and it's in Dutch?
And it's in subtitles. Yeah, they have a lot of stuff that's in full subtitles.
My wife convinced me to watch one of those one night, and it was a really entertaining movie, but the subtitles just,
I can do the I just don't like it when, because they did this with Squid Game, where they will try to put English voiceovers over and then the lips don't sync up, and it's very distracting. I'm not a fan of that.
So apparently, if you have Netflix stock, you're doing pretty well. The stock has increased 18% since early January and more than 80% in the last year.
oh, goodness.
I was about to say they've gone up 16%. Their subscribers have grown by 16% in the past year. That's pretty remarkable for.
So 18% since early January, 80% in the last 12 months. So one share, according to the story that I'm reading, is over $1,000.
Wow. Well, and you think about this too, because I'd be interested if they had these numbers from Christmas. But all right, let's say you get a full season package of the NFL on Netflix. How many people are going to pay for Netflix and only use it for that and then forget to cancel it? And you are just collecting money from people that aren't using your service.
Well, so they've already got the Christmas Day NFL. They've got WWE's Raw. That, it made the transition.
Mm-hmm.
It was on Fox, and now it's on Netflix. And now they also have the upcoming FIFA Women's World Cup starting in 2027.
Oh, I did not know that.
Yes.
Okay. Very cool.
So.
And they have Jake Paul and Mike Tyson.
Yes. There you go.
I forgot that this guy, Reed Hastings, the co-founder of Netflix, do you remember when this story came out where he bought Powder Mountain, Utah, the country's largest ski resort?
No, I was not aware of that.
That was just must be good to have founded Netflix.
I remember when I, had to mail in the DVDs and go
That's
online and set the queue of which movie you wanted in which order, and me and my mom would have to alternate.
I never did that.
Really? Oh,
no,
yeah.
and I knew people who did.
Oh, yeah.
It sounded like it was quite the deal. I would go to the Red Box.
That's fair. I don't know if we had one of those in Hayden. I'm surprised we had Netflix in Hayden that they knew where to
Well,
mail
you
it
just
to.
mailed it back, right?
Would they drop it in your P.O. box and you go into town and get it?
That's right, yeah.
Once a week you'd go to the
I'd
P.O.
draw my
box.
horse and carriage and travel into town.
Heading into town to get my DVD. You can head to our friends at Dobbs Ford right there on Parkway East in Birmingham. The Goshen family did a wonderful job, their entire sales staff. Everyone there on the lot, they're going to take care of you, but also the selection is unbeatable. Got Alabama's largest showroom selection, F-150s, Broncos Sports, Mustangs. How about one of those in time for the warmer weather? All kinds of great options that you have, the pre-owned and the brand-new inventory selection as well. It's Dobbs Ford, DobbsFordBirmingham.com. Check them out on the website. Go see and feel the difference at Dobbs Ford. Make sure you tell them Landrum from Jocks 94.5 sent you.
We're located here at Social Taco in Homewood, the Taco Terrace. Come on up and see us. Great crowd already on hand, but we can make room for you. Come on by and see us. This is Three-Man Front on Jocks 94.5. It is 11:49, Jocks 94.5. So we were sitting here talking during the break about some unsubstantiated rumors about Bruce Pearl and Indiana potentially being interested in him. Who would not be interested in Bruce Pearl?
Don was tearing up.
But apparently Kentucky Sports Hall of Fame journalist Oscar Combs, he has implored Indiana University to pursue Bruce Pearl with a major assist from Hoosiers alumnus Mark Cuban. Combs says Bruce Pearl is mighty hot right now, and he has Indiana roots. Going to take a lot of money to pull him away from Auburn, where he is definitely Tarzan of the jungle, yet Indiana is desperate. Where are you, Mark Cuban? End of quote.
That's what you want to do at this stage in your career if you're Bruce Pearl, right? Your son's a head coach in waiting. You love where you are. You're on top of the college basketball world. Go to a program whose best years are behind them that is absolutely desperate at 65 years of age. What?
Yeah, the pressure to go to Indiana and turn that thing around. And not saying that Bruce Pearl couldn't do that, because I think we all agree he's a great coach. But why would you?
Why
would you want to?
Well, everybody's going back and quoting a 2023.
He said it was his dream job or whatever, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Indiana was my dream job. It really was. I love everything about Indiana basketball. Really loved and admired Coach Knight as a young coach myself. It is one of the great programs in America.
See, I just think what he's done at Auburn and taking again, I mean, you brought it up recently, Landrum. We can forget how bad that basketball program was at times. And to turn them into a powerhouse in the modern era of college basketball over the last 5 or 6 years, why would you want to leave that to go to rebuild Indiana and
at
deal
one
with
time,
all that pressure?
All right, so you got fan support. What is the NIL at Indiana? That's what I want to know. Because Indiana you could get in the door of certain recruits where you couldn't do that in other places. It's not the case anymore. It's all about NIL. And what he's done at Auburn, there's a lot of kids that want to go and play for a coach like that. You're going to put them in the league. They know that the NIL is going to be there. That's Auburn. That's Alabama. That's some of these other places. We can't set the criteria and say it's the same that it used to be. It's just not. It's not even the case at Duke or North Carolina. Look at North Carolina this year. I'm not saying this because you brought it up. It's worth bringing it up, but I'm not going to have a serious discussion about Bruce Pearl going and leaving for another job in college anymore. I'm not going to do it. It's silly. It's a waste of air.
Would you say the Indiana basketball job is comparable to maybe, and I'm not saying this, no offense, Molly, but to Nebraska football, right? Where
I think that's a great comparison.
If you're going and trying to sell people on the history of that program, I mean, no offense, it doesn't mean it didn't happen, but a lot of these kids weren't alive for that. They didn't see it. It doesn't mean anything to them. You can't recruit that way, at least anymore.
Further quotes in this article that everybody in Indiana keeps referring back to. Bruce Pearl said, the timing was never right, I suppose. I guess what? I was at Tennessee and really enjoying that, and I love Auburn now, so nothing ever really aligned, but it would have been a dream come true to coach Indiana. That's how much I love and respect that program. But goes back to the very first part where he says, Indiana was my dream job.
I feel the same way about Nate Oates' and Carolina job. And Nate Oates, I would maybe entertain that a little bit more just because he's younger.
I think that's significantly more likely than Bruce Pearl going to Indiana.
And it's because of age.
Yeah.
And everything that's in place. But
it was like Nick Saban in the Texas situation after the kick six, right? It was, if you're going to keep coaching, why would you want to leave and start somewhere else and go and try to build that program back into what it used to be at this stage in your career? It just doesn't make sense.
Did Chris Beard, his agent, did he tell the people that had reached out that he had no interest in the Indiana? You could have Chris Beard. He's been to a Final Four.
So right now, Bruce Pearl makes $5.7 million. He's the fourth highest paid coach in college basketball. I would go ahead and venture a guess that the Auburn Board of Trustees are already probably ready to present him with a brand new contract that would pay him whatever amount of money
is Self
he would require.
The highest paid coach?
Yes.
What is that?
He is at $9.6 million.
I mean, I guess if you're Indiana, what is your play? Hey, Mark, can you write us a check for $12 million a year for Bruce? Like, it would have to be a number that would just absolutely blow your blow you away.
What's so crazy that Bill Self's buyout is $23 million. Now, according to this, Bruce Pearl's buyout is $14.6 million. So before you even start talking about what you would pay Bruce Pearl to leave Auburn, you've got to write a check for $14.6 million to the Auburn Athletic Department.
Man, some of those buyouts. Tommy Lloyd is 20.
Dan Hurley's $20 million buyout. Brad Underwood at Illinois is $25.8 million. Nate Oates, $25 million. You want to go to North Carolina?
What is Chris Beard's?
I'm going to have to go on down that list here, my friend, and come up with Mr. Beards.
$1 million.
Something tells
$2
me he
million?
was gotten at a bit of a discount.
It shows nothing.
Nothing.
I mean, it just has a blank space. So,
Can I guess they got him on a
damaged goods.
a prove it deal, something along those lines.
This is the
Stay
one.
out of
This is the
trouble,
one I
please.
love. Look at Chris Jans. Look what his buyout is.
$1?
Yeah.
Sweet, so he can just walk right out.
Yep. $1 according to the USA Today database.
I mean, hey, anytime you get somebody like Mark Cuban involved, though, you just start to wonder what that dollar amount would potentially be for them.
Well, who was it that we had on the show last week? There's a reason why you've had guys that played in Indiana that have coached at a high level at other places that have had the offer to go back to their beloved school, but they know what that job is. They know what the demand is. They know how basketball crazy their fan base is, and they haven't want to do it because they ultimately believe that they maybe could not have the sustained success that was the expectation, and they still want to be able to go back to a school that they love, unlike a Mike Shula or some of these other cats that have gone back to their alma maters.
Well, before somebody just tuned in as they're getting ready to come up here to Social Taco to have lunch, I just want to point out that we are not reporting that Bruce Pearl is interested in the Indiana job. There's been some internet chatter that potentially, if Mark Cuban got involved at his alma mater, then obviously he could potentially stroke a check to numerous coaches, and maybe Bruce Pearl would be someone that they would be interested in at Indiana.
People said the same thing last year. Potentially Hurley was going to leave UConn. Then they said the same thing about Kentucky. Why is he not at Kentucky?
Why is he not with the Lakers?
Hey, he's probably having second thoughts now. Coming up next on Three Man Front, Ty Richardson, ESPN Radio from Fayetteville, Arkansas. He's going to join us. We're going to preview tomorrow night's game between Arkansas and Auburn next on Three Man Front. It is 12 noon. Welcome back in. This is Three Man Front. Pat, Landrum, Conrad on site here. Social Taco, Molly back in studio high atop Red Mountain. This is Three Man Front. Great radio stations like the Ump up in Huntsville, Jocks 94.5 here in Birmingham, and Jocks 740 down in the capital city of Montgomery, Alabama. Been talking a lot about this conference conversation between the Big Ten and the SEC down in New Orleans, Louisiana, taking place tomorrow. We'll have more information coming out of those meetings tomorrow afternoon as Tony Petiti and Greg Sankey will probably meet with the media afterwards. But we're talking basketball, talking hoops. Both Alabama and Auburn not playing tonight, but they're in action tomorrow night. And joining us now on the Buyers Ride Hotline, good friend of the program, Ty Richardson from ESPN Radio out in the great state of Arkansas, joins us to talk a little bit about Coach Cal and these Arkansas Razorbacks. You know, it's interesting, Ty. Just a couple weeks ago we talked to you, and things did not look very good for the Arkansas Razorbacks. But it's amazing what happens when you go to Rupp Arena and you beat your former team.
Yeah, that was one of the best nights of my entire life. I had a shirtless celebration after the fact, but hopefully that's not the high point of their season. I think they really haven't had a marquee home win, guys. But let's just be honest, they're not winning the Jungle tomorrow night. I'd be hard pressed to see them keep it within single digits, even if Auburn has an emotional letdown after that Bama win. But just hoping Arkansas can at least make the NCAA tournament, and the tradition of making the tournament can get back to where it needs to be here in Fayetteville.
Flaking on the interview, just like karaoke at media days.
Are you there, Ty?
Can y'all hear me?
Ty's still there.
Yeah, go ahead. You kind of cut out. You were okay. Okay. Is Ty still there? Are we still there? I'm just making sure, Mo. Okay, we are good. Okay. All right, so Ty, I'll let you finish that statement. We actually broke up here live on remote location. Okay. You know how that goes. Just kind of recap the fact that you had your shirt off and you were going crazy because they beat Coach Cal.
Yeah, guys, hoping that's not the high point of the season. And you guys would be doing the entire station a disservice if you don't bring back Social Taco to Molly and everyone else that's back slaving away at the station while you guys are enjoying the 40-degree weather. I'm envious of you guys, not only for getting to enjoy Taco Tuesday. Guys, it's like 20-something here in Fort Smith, and Molly was telling me in the break it's like 40-something. You guys, I think it's going to be like 60-something in Auburn, Alabama today. I'm very envious of that weather right now.
Oh, it's beautiful weather. About 2 weeks from now, I love this weather. We have springtime, some of the spring sports, all of that good stuff. You still need a pullover at certain times of the day, but you get that sunshine that's coming through, and you can go swing the sticks a little bit. Love this time of year and all the sporting events that come with it. Ty Richardson from the state of Arkansas there in Fayetteville, ESPN Radio, joining us. All of our guests join us on the Buyers Right Insurance Hotline. How much has maybe the grading, the evaluation of John Calipari, how much has it changed since we talked to you last? Based on the NIL value, what was believed to be on that roster, and based right now on still being on the bubble of the NCAA tournament?
Well, it's still disappointment, and there's 6 conference games remaining. You got the SEC tournament, so that's subject to change based on what they can pull out. But I think guys, the example I made last time is like if you guys are the highest paid host in the country and y'all keep bringing back dismal numbers, which we know is anything but the case. You guys are a top-rated show according to Barrett Sports Media. It's like it ticks fans off. It would tick Jocks fans off that you guys are producing, and that's how Arkansas fans feel. It's like while we didn't directly give money through NIL, we in part played a role in this, and yet the production hasn't been there. So. Yes, the Kentucky win's big. You got the Michigan win in Madison Square Garden, but, you still got a tournament opportunity. I think Arkansas fans have a much different perception of John Calipari if he pulls one out of his you-know-what and they go to the tournament here in these next, 6, 7, 8 games, depending on what happens in Nashville.
So, Ty, what's the problem with Texas A&M? Because it feels like in both football and now in basketball with what happened over the weekend, Texas A&M has just almost – I feel like they're the ultimate villain for you guys here over the last couple of years. So what – is it a mental thing? It's just odd that it seemed to cross over from football to now basketball in a game that I thought Arkansas was going to win on Saturday.
Death, Texas, and us losing the Aggies. I mean, there is no explanation for how Arkansas continues to falter and fail against Texas A&M in football. And basketball, I mean, Buzz Williams just got a good team. Wade Taylor didn't play that great. He was 4-13. They shot like 42%, and yet they end up winning by 8 because, I mean, top 10 team at home, kind of expect it. But in terms of, like, just the psyche overall, it makes no sense. Texas A&M has had something on Arkansas since 2012. They're playing that game in Jerry World pretty much every year since 2014, with the exception of the COVID year. Conrad, I know you're not used to losing because you're a Bama football fan, but I want you to imagine like a team that beats you every single year, and it's the most painful way possible. Like, think of like the kick sticks and like the comeback every single year against Alabama. That's how Arkansas fans feel about Texas A&M. Except it's not like this great team or great tradition of history when it comes to A&M. It's A&M. They don't.
So that makes it even worse.
Yes, it's worse. So, and you can tell, obviously, my voice and inflection has risen since we started talking about this, because it still angers me that we somehow, some way, continue to lose to the Aggies every year in football.
All right, so Ty, I keep reading the bracketologists out there, and they still have Arkansas in the field as we speak. Where do you find them right now? Do they need obviously a win at Auburn? Does that mean that?
Yeah.
I mean, does that mean they're in? I mean, they lose at Auburn. I mean, what do they have to do? I know you mentioned that there's still the SEC tournament coming up, but honestly, do you see this team being an NCAA-worthy team right now?
Pat, if they win 4 of 6, they're in. I think even with the loss in the SEC tournament, that puts them at 8-10. They would have, by that metric, I think 7 quad 1 victories, and they played of like 15, if I remember that math right. If they win 3 of their next 6, I think they have to win 2 SEC tournament games, which could be 1 or 2 quad 1 games left. But they've got winnable games. You mentioned the Auburn game. They're not winning that game tomorrow night. No chance they win in the jungle. But Missouri comes back. Anniversary of the 1990 Final Four team happening inside of Bud Walton Arena. So the emotions are going to be high. Really quality Missouri team. Maybe you pull that one out. So I think bare minimum you have to do at least regular season is 3-3, and you got to win two turning games. You go 4-2, you'll be 8-10. Lock one down in Nashville. At least win Wednesday night. That way I can stay through the weekend too, and not have to drive back to Arkansas.
Oh, it's all about you, Ty. It's not about your basketball team. It's just about your own private life.
Yeah, well, the combination of both. The thing is, guys, I've got a wedding the first week in the NCAA tournament in Austin, Texas. So my friend keeps asking me, am I coming? And I keep telling him, like, I don't know, because it solely depends on what Arkansas basketball does in postseason here in the next few weeks.
Ty, I'm guessing that you watched the IBOB, as we call it here in the state, the Iron Bowl of basketball on Saturday. I do want to get your perspective just from someone who is a fan of a team in the league that has a good basketball tradition, but you don't reside within this state. What was your big takeaway from that game that we saw in Coleman Coliseum last Saturday?
Well, Janai Broom's the real deal. I mean, what do you have, 20 and 14 and a couple assists, couple blocks. He's unbelievable. I don't know why Mark Spears is having an off year. I think last Saturday or this past Saturday was just kind of, it's been odd to watch him, because I thought he was going to explode. I want to say he averaged like 20 on 52% shooting last year, and both those numbers have dropped. So I think there's a rub there with him and Nate Oates. Auburn is every bit as good as that 2019 team that Bruce Pearl had, if not better. I think it'd be a big disappointment. You could argue that team a couple years back with Kessler and Smith and that whole unit. I think this year's team has guard play, and Bama, like, we can't fault them for losing to Auburn. I know that game was at home, but that's a 1-seed equivalent. They've got a great front line. They've got good guard play too. So my takeaway is the best team in college basketball went on the road to beat their arch rival, but you shouldn't necessarily slide Alabama. They've earned every bit of 1-seed based on the gauntlet, and I know their schedule in the next 6 games is the toughest I think I've ever seen. My goodness gracious.
So, Ty, kind of going off of that then, so after the game on Saturday, did you walk away? Do you still view Alabama as the second best team in the SEC? Do you think maybe Florida jumped them because that is the only team that we've seen beat Auburn in conference play? So how would you rank that? Who would be your second best team behind Auburn right now?
I think when you look at the Gators and the Crimson Tide, Conrad, you might have to help me. Have they played head-to-head? Am I blanking on that matchup?
They have not yet. They will in this brutal stretch coming up for Alabama.
Okay, that's what I thought. But I think when you look at those two teams, like they both played in some solid non-conference. I mean, Bama had a good one. I think that like you probably, I know it's going to pain Alabama fans, but you probably got to give the benefit of the doubt to the Gators in simply the fact that, they, like you mentioned, they did go to Auburn. I mean, it is impossible to go to Jungle and win. Like, I'm just riding off a 25-point loss tomorrow night and just waiting for Saturday. And the fact that they did it and gave Auburn their first home loss of the season, not just in SEC play, that's the most impressive in college basketball, even over the Duke win against Auburn because they did it in Cameron. So I think that's, like, there's no better win in college basketball than what Florida has. So that's, Conrad, that's why I would give the edge to the Gators, even though it's as tight as it gets. Especially, you could argue that Bama's conference schedule down the stretch is going to be tougher. And if they beat Florida, then put Bama above them when it comes to seed in the NCAA tournament.
All right, Ty, let me ask you a football question. In regards to what's going on down in New Orleans, we anticipate that we're going to get some type of resolution between these two conferences in regards to maybe the recommendation to the College Football Playoff Management Committee next week in Dallas. Where do you fall with this? Do you think that there should be an expansion? Do you think that the SEC is deserving of 4 automatic qualifiers? Like, where do you stand with this potential proposal?
Well, Greg Sankey doesn't have as much of a leg to stand on as he has in years past, simply because 2015 and the Big Ten have won it the last 2 years between Michigan and Ohio State. And, I mean, if you're Greg Sankey, you can hold up, well, the SEC's been in every championship or semifinal since 2006. Like, you can't argue against that. And they have, like, that report you're referring to, Dellinger. Apparently there's, like, an understanding that the Big Ten and the SEC are going to control more of the impact or the decision, like on that 2026 timeline you're referring to, Pat. So it's all about money. The SEC announced the $52 million or whatever it was 2 weeks ago to each school. That number is going to go up if you play non-conference games and there's more money on the table with the college football playoff. The product's not going to get better, but the money's going to get greater. And regardless of what athletic directors and presidents say publicly, privately, that's the most important thing to them because they have to worry about revenue sharing, cost cutting, cord cutting, and everything else under the sun when it comes to financials. So I tend to think it's going to happen, but I've been wrong before.
How excited are you for Thursday's matchup, part 2, between U.S. hockey and Canada?
Woo! Man, that was fun. I wonder if they're going to boo the national anthem like they did. That was kind of set the U.S. team off. That was, you think about the All-Star weekend, you think about 1v2 in college basketball on Saturday. There was a lot in golf this weekend. Torrey Pines, there was a lot of entertainment value. But guys, let's just be honest. We're in Alabama right now. We're talking all things except football. Like, there was a gaping hole in my heart without any sort of football this weekend, and it's not going to be fulfilled until August. Until the first week of the college football season. We don't have it until then, and it's just kind of painful. I can feel it with so many other things sports-wise. It's not the same to me without having college or NFL football.
We've got the UFL here. You can come in and enjoy some Stallions action. We have a lot of fun.
Let's go.
Giddy up.
I'm in. Hey, later, I was watching your UAB Blazers last night. I was on the treadmill and I was watching, or Sunday, whichever it was.
Sunday.
And I thought of you. You were the one person I thought of as I was watching the Blazers take off South Florida.
Well, thank you for that. And I was there in attendance, so you might have, yeah.
He definitely saw you.
He definitely did.
He definitely saw you. Ty, I did quickly. I wanted to ask you another basketball question. I know it's probably slim possibility, but let's say Arkansas does make the NCAA tournament. What's the latest on Boogie Flan? Is there any chance that that's a player that could be back for the NCAA tournament if Arkansas makes it that far?
Conrad, I don't think so. John Rothstein reported. Now, the email that we got from the University of Arkansas did not give a correct timeline. John Rothstein, who's pretty up to date on stuff like this, reported that he was out for the season. So between the two, I know there's not anything like locked down from the U of A, but I'm going to trust Rothstein's reporting there. Hopefully, there's an update that gives us something different. But I wonder, like, guys, would that mess up the dynamic? Like, they didn't win an SEC game with Boogie Flan, and then if he comes back, does that mess things up? They've got their 8 guys they've been playing. I'm curious if that happens, if it plays out like you're proposing, what Cal would do to try and incorporate him back, if at all, or if he was like, hey, it might just be better if you prepare for the next phase of your life, which is the NBA. I don't know. That's a great question to ponder.
He's our friend Ty Richardson from the great state of Arkansas. He's co-host of the Morning Rush, 9 to 11 there in Fayetteville at Ty. That's TYE Sports Radio on Twitter. Ty, we always appreciate the time, my friend. Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. Guys, get some birria tacos today. Enjoy it.
We will do that. Ty Richardson joining us, as all of our guests do, on the Buyers Right Insurance Hotline for all of your insurance, financial, and HR needs. It's Buyers Right Insurance, a Higginbotham partner.
So the other day I was heading home to Trustful, and I got a call from Drew Lawley, the general manager there at Courtesy GMC. He said, hey, Pat, I want you to stop by. I want you to take a look at this Sierra AT4X. And I said, absolutely. So I stopped by the dealership, and I was absolutely blown away on these Sierra AT4Xs that they have right there at Courtesy GMC in Trustful. They got front and rear electronic locking differentials, a combination not offered in any competitor in any class. The Multimatic DS-SV dampers, the AEV stamped steel front bumper, which that has that front winch capability, that stamped boron steel front approach AEV skid plate, 16-way power heated and ventilated front seats with massage feature. I'm telling you, it goes on and on and on. The Sierra AT4X, here's the other best part of Courtesy GMC. You can go online. You can shop anybody else you want to, whether it's in Florida, the state of Alabama, locally in Birmingham. Nobody is going to beat Courtesy GMC when it comes to this pricing on the AT4X. They got plenty to choose from, and let me tell you something. They are there to serve you right now. Go by and see them or check out their online inventory at courtesybirmingham.com. Do the test. Go ahead, compare. They want you to, because you're going to see that $11,000 off MSRP cannot be beat anywhere in Birmingham or the state of Alabama. That is Courtesy GMC in Trustful, located there right off of Edwards Lake Road, off of I-459, exit 32. That's Courtesy GMC.
Well, continue to get your comments, not only on what's going on in New Orleans with the powers that be meeting on the future of the college football playoff, intercollegiate athletics, but also college basketball as well. 205-834-9450 on the Jocks text line, 800-239-WJOX. We continue live from Social Taco in Homewood on this Tuesday, a Taco Tuesday. Three-man front and Jocks, 94.5.
It's 12:21, Jocks 94.5. We're live at Social Taco. Pat, Conrad, Molly, and Landrum with you until 2 o'clock right here on Jocks 94.5.
Well, let me tell you about Big Whiskeys because they are the place for great food of all varieties with a full menu with apps, salads, burgers to steaks. Their bar features unique cocktails, over 120 whiskeys, including whiskey on tap. They also offer different food and drink specials for each day of the week. They have happy hour and the kitchen is open late every night, so go check them out and go and catch all the games that you can on the big screen. So in the Sam Trace Village off Highway 150 near the Hoover Met.
So it's a great conversation there with Ty Richardson. Needless to say, they knock off Auburn. I think they're in the tournament, right?
Yeah.
I don't think there's any question.
No. Yeah.
Okay.
That would be a lock.
There's 6 games left. I was looking at their schedule. They got some gettable games. You got Texas on the schedule. You get Mississippi State at home. South Carolina's there. Vanderbilt.
Missouri, yeah.
Missouri, and then Auburn. I think 4 of 6.
I was about to say, yeah, like Ty
Would
said,
justify
4 and 2, and you lose to Auburn, and let's say Mississippi State. That's a tough team, and yeah, you had a ranked win there. You should be good to go.
So Arkansas and Auburn, you can hear that game tomorrow night right here on Jocks 94.5. It's still amazing to think about what Auburn has been able to do so far this season with wins over the 2nd, 5th, 7th, 8th, and 9th overall seeds. What the NCAA tournament committee
is that really that impressive?
As a sports fan, I'm going back to my Braves and thinking about some of the more successful seasons where they've been dominant and they've had a huge lead over their division or maybe the rest of Major League Baseball in the win column. And your fear is always, as a fan of one of those teams, that you peter out. You have that great run, but there at the end, you can't get it done.
Like the Dodgers did essentially every year for a while.
Would you rather we're talking college basketball, if it's your team, would you rather them be in the conversation? They're in the top 10. Maybe you feel like they've got some left in the tank where you see where I'm going with this kind of?
Yeah, I guess just in the sense of you don't want to peak too early, I guess. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Well, it's the same group of people. I mean, remember Bruce Pearl was talking about it after the Florida loss. Remember he said, man, everybody was talking about, this is good for you, losing a game.
Yeah.
And he reminded everybody that this is a very difficult conference. So, if you think, okay, well, they went ahead and got their loss out of the way, that they potentially might not lose another one. He was just reminding everybody how difficult it is. But one thing I do appreciate about this team, and we talked about it yesterday, is that I just don't remember – I mean, outside obviously not playing good enough to beat Florida, but I just don't remember anybody else in conference play where Auburn just didn't appear that they were prepared and ready to go at it. You know what I mean?
No, they don't have –
no complacency.
No, they don't have the warts of a team like in Alabama where, again, as we've talked about, second half – they've had consistent issues throughout the season despite how good they've been, whereas with Auburn, I mean, heck, you were missing the best player in the country for a handful of games, and you just went right through your schedule like clockwork. So, no, I think that's what's the most impressive thing about Auburn is they're arguably the deepest team in the country. They have arguably the best player, one of the best coaches, and they're so fundamentally sound. They're not going to lose games because of stupid mistakes, turnovers, things like that.
Now Landrum will remember this. So Auburn is 23-2 on the season. That is tied with the 2021-22 Tigers for the second best 25-game started program history. Do you remember the one that started 24-1? 1999,
yeah, 1998-99.
Sure was. Auburn has won at least 23 games now, 6 times in the last 8 seasons, compared to just 3 times in program history before that.
Yeah, I forget about, but that Kessler and Jabari Smith team, because I don't think about that team when I think about, of course, the way that I thought about the 2018-2019 team.
I was about to say,
because
because
the Final Four.
They disappointed in March.
Yeah, that team, it gets lost. I know that there was deficiencies at guard.
I was about to say, was that when Wendell Carter was the point guard,
Wendell
maybe,
Green.
or Sharif or Wendell Green?
Yeah,
you had guys that were a liability and would turn the ball over, and take bad shots for a few years at Auburn.
And you just didn't have that answer from the outside. That it was your 2 big men, and your best shooter was probably Jabari Smith that year.
Yeah, and he's not a spot up shooter necessarily, but
And to think about this, Auburn with 11 wins now in SEC play for the 6th time in the last 8 seasons and the 20th time in program history. So, I mean, it doesn't happen a lot.
No.
And for them to be able to do that, they also set a school record with its 7th SEC road win of the season against Alabama. That broke the old mark of 6 road wins in conference play in 1950, 1970, 1999, and 2022. So there are records being broke every single time Auburn gets a victory this year. It's been pretty amazing.
I'm going back and I'm looking at, that was the Walker Kessler Jabari Smith year. Was that 21-22 or 22-23?
I think that was 21-22 because that's the year that they were the 1 seed. Yeah, I think it was that year.
I just want to go back and look at, because this year what's so impressive about what they've done is how strong the league is and how many top 25 teams or top 10 teams we've already seen them face in the head-to-head. As I go back and I look at the non-conference, oh, goodness, it was
a little different than this year's?
It was a lot different than this year.
Oh, they played Nebraska.
They did play Nebraska.
They beat them.
Played a St. Louis team, a Murray State team, UCF, Syracuse, but that was not a very good Syracuse team. They had kind of hit their slide. Number 22 UConn, they lost to them. Double overtime in the Bahamas. Yeah,
that year there were 4 ranked teams in the SEC.
Yeah, okay.
Auburn, Kentucky, and Tennessee were all 14, 15, and 16, and then Arkansas was the highest-ranked team in the SEC. They were number 8.
Amazing.
And we had, 8 teams in the AP Top 25 yesterday from the conference? So that just goes to show you could make the argument the league is twice as difficult this year, and they're having the same amount of success.
And putting together just incredible numbers. And also, from the game at Coleman Coliseum, Auburn surpassed the 90-point mark on Saturday for the 9th time this season and the 3rd time in the last 5 games. So I know a lot of people might not think about Auburn being that high-octane type of offense like in Alabama.
Yeah.
But for them to do that, especially 3rd time in the last 5 games, eclipsing 90 points.
The thing that gives you comfort if you're an Auburn fan is this team is not, we just got our 2 bigs.
Yeah.
Everything runs through them. You've got so many different players, and you're so deep, and there's so many different ways that Auburn can beat you.
It feels like the only thing, obviously barring injury, but, like what you had last year against Yale where you had a Chad Baker-Mazara get ejected early, that really feels like the only thing that would hold this team back is if you get somebody in a situation like that early on in a tournament game and then you're without them. But even at that point, as we saw with Janai Broom, they're so deep that I think they can cover those up more than they could last year.
More of 3-Man Front. We're live at Social Taco. The crowd continues to meander in. We appreciate.
Creed is here.
Yep, Creed is here. Just came up. Creed, I loved his work in the office. More of 3-Man Front here on Jocks 94.5.
Welcome back in. Great group here in the Terrace. Social Taco in Homewood. Landrum, Pat, Conrad, Molly. Womaning things there at the studio of Jocks 94.5. I was correct in doing that. Conrad, welcome back to the set. How are you?
Good. I washed my hands.
Oh, thank goodness.
I knew that was going to be your first question.
Our little hygiene cards that we give you, they're paying off.
Well, I was looking for their shower, but they said it was
Out of order.
not in operation right now.
I can find you a hose outside.
Is there a drain? I'm more focused on that.
So we were just talking about Auburn and how just some of these numbers are so impressive of the resume and what they've been able to put together. Meanwhile, Alabama has got let's just call it the way it is. This is a tough one. I mean, sandwiched in after you lose at home to Auburn in a very emotional game.
It's brutal.
Now you got to go and play a Mizzou team, and we'll talk to Eli Hoff coming up at the top of the hour. Covers the Missouri Tigers for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. But Nick Kelly, friend of the program, Nick will be on later this week talking Alabama. He did a story for AL.com this morning, and this is the part that troubles me. There's a lot of things that trouble me about Alabama.
I'm glad you're bringing
forward.
this up, yes.
But he charted Alabama's second-half defense. It has been worse in every game in SEC play in the second half, for the exception of one. Now let that sink in for a minute.
And it wasn't – I mean, I guess it was a game you needed it, but it was against LSU, who's the second-worst team in the conference.
LSU was the only game in SEC play where Alabama actually played halfway decent defense in the second half. Now, what he did is it's based on possession allowed by Alabama.
Points per possession.
Yeah, points per possession, I should say. And you look at what they were able to do in the first half, and I don't know if it's because Alabama comes out and they get a big lead or whatever, and then the second half they kind of cruise a little bit, whatever the case may be. But these are disturbing numbers, Conrad, if you're an Alabama basketball fan, because every single game, except for LSU, they got worse on defense.
Well, and a lot of these are, I mean, let's see, we've got Oklahoma over half more point per possession in the second half. Same thing with Vanderbilt. Let's see, you have Georgia was a similar circumstance. Texas was a similar circumstance. I mean, Auburn wasn't far off from that. So yeah, those are certainly concerning numbers, and that's why, as I brought it up earlier, I think I brought it up yesterday. This is something you've heard Nate Oates bring up in 90% of Alabama's games this year. Is if you listen to his post-game press conference, even in big wins, it's always the second half defense just wasn't quite what he was expecting it to be, and that's why you saw different lineups at times coming out in the second half. You got to figure that out. I don't know. I guess at this point you just are who you are, right? But I don't know what it is about the lack of intensity, because you would think in the first 5 to 10 minutes coming out of halftime is when you'd be the most energized, right? Because you're rested, and that's been the opposite.
I mean, it's amazing. I mean, Landrum, you're sitting here looking at the same stuff I'm looking at just the increase of points per possession in the second half for Alabama's defense.
But to be fair, I'm just thinking, watching college basketball, generally I would assume that your points per possession increase in the second half as opposed to the first half. Not always the case, but I would think that would be the trend for the majority of teams, that you warm up. I want to see the comparison. I would love to see the comparison of the other schools in the SEC.
Oh, to see if the trend of second half points per possession.
And then extrapolate that out and look at all of college basketball. And I'm thinking about this because I was thinking about I was watching UAB in South Florida on Sunday, and I was thinking about you at halftime and wondering if you were looking at potentially a live line in that game and what that live line would look like. And so I actually went and I looked, and the live line that they offered in the second half for the total was around it was like 164 or somewhere in there. Anyways, so I started thinking about the first half production of both teams, how they're shooting, who's shooting what, and I thought, well, wow, there's no way that they go on top of that number. But sure enough, you started seeing more shots fall in the second half. It's just one example of why. And as the game goes on, some teams you got guys they're a little more fatigued.
I was about to say, it doesn't factor in, if you're just cold shooting in the first half and then you shoot at the average in the second half, right?
Yeah.
And it kind of evens things out. But, an interesting part of this, too, is if you're an Alabama fan, you want something else to be disappointed about, is based on these numbers. I mean, the second half against Auburn was the worst second half defense that Alabama has played against an SEC team this year. That was Saturday against your biggest rival in a 1-versus-2 matchup, the worst you've been defensively in the second half.
Well, it was interesting because with 7:49 left to go in the game, it was tied. And then Auburn just takes off. Meanwhile, Alabama goes 2 of 13 shooting the rest of the game. So, it was just it was a huge turn. And that was the other thing that was so impressive because every time that Alabama had a run in them, and they had to exercise so much energy just to get the game back, being tied after falling behind 9-0 to start the game. It was just Alabama was in a really tough position, and they just couldn't get over the hump there, going from 7:49 down. So Bama and Mizzou, that is tomorrow night at 8 o'clock. Auburn and Arkansas also at 8 o'clock tomorrow night. And you can hear the game right here on Jocks 94.5.
I can't wait for the NCAA tournament if we have both of them playing at the same time. That'll be fun, right?
Well, don't you remember last year when we were up here doing the show? You had
UAB.
UAB started off early.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And then Bama played, right?
And then, that's right. And then,
or was it the other way around? Auburn and then Alabama.
Might have been Auburn and then Alabama.
Okay. All three played on that Friday.
Yeah, and then I know was Sanford that. I know they
Sanford
played
the night
night
before.
They played the night before when they got jobbed by the officials.
Yeah, I knew they played at night.
They got hosed big time.
By the way, for those listening on the Jocks 94.5 app, want to say good morning to Aunt Glenda and also my mother-in-law, Barbara, as they're listening to us on the app as they are on the way to Silverthorne there in Colorado. I'm guessing some shopping. Silverthorne, they got.
Is that a nice shopping center?
Yeah, it is actually.
Okay.
Mm-hmm. You don't have just summits, summits, but not summit shopping centers.
Yes.
Just strategically located there.
There's plateaus
in
where
the
there's actual.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Different kind of summit.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We're live at Social Taco. Again, at the top of the hour, we'll go to St. Louis. We'll talk to Eli Huff, who covers the wonderful Mizzou Tigers. That's all coming up as we're live at Social Taco here on Jocks 94.5. It's 12:45. Jocks 94.5. Just looking at some pictures of beautiful spring training down in Florida. Man, looks weird seeing Goldschmidt on those Yankee pinstripes.
He looks like 10 years younger, though.
Because he shaved his beard.
I know. It's a good look.
He got to shave his face to be part of the Yankees.
I know. He should grow the mustache. That's a good look.
Spring training.
That's such a weird rule that you guys have.
Well, we have standards.
Why don't you?
Standards.
What's wrong with a beard?
You don't win 27 championships by being all willy-nilly about
Just don't
facial
let him
hair.
have a neck beard. Don't let him have the, what's his name, Andrew Luck look.
Yeah, no, I mean,
Make
I
him
agree.
shave the neck.
I think it's a bit outdated, to be honest, but, got to keep those traditions.
Okay. Well,
It's like if we were to do the new uniforms in Tuscaloosa, it wouldn't feel right,
Well, it's fast becoming a tradition. Our friends at Prize Picks, you can download the app today and find out that Prize Picks is the best place to get real money sports action. Over 10 million members, billions of dollars in awarded winnings. Prize Picks has made daily fantasy sports accessible to all. You just pick more or less on at least 2 players for a shot to win up to 1,000 times your cash. You can run your game all season long on Prize Picks. Here's what you need to know. Download the Prize Picks app today. Enter promo code WJOX, and after your first $5 play, win or lose, you're going to get $50 instantly kicked back to your account. Once again, download the app at Prize Picks, fill out your information, set up your account, enter promo code WJOX. Your first $5 play, win or lose, they're going to give you $50 instantly kicked back to your account. Our friends at Prize Picks want to remind you that it's always fun throughout the year, no matter the sport that you're watching. And here's just an idea. Tonight, you've got LSU guard DJ Bailey, Conrad, versus South Carolina. 0.5 3-pointers made. You going more or less? Did DJ get a 3 tonight?
I'm going to go less. LSU's really bad shooting the 3 ball this year.
Atrocious at times.
Really bad.
Is a
Really
great
bad.
way to describe it. So that's just an example. It's more or less on particular matchups. You can be a winner as well. We appreciate our friends at Prize Picks.
So Matt Hayes, who writes an article or two for USA Today, also is a radio talk show host in Jacksonville, Florida. He put out an article this morning in USA Today talking about the meetings going on in New Orleans, and he says this is not about expansion, it's about college sports survival. And so in this article, he's talking about some of the ideas that has been passed around in regards to what the college football playoff or the SEC or the Big Ten might look like. We've talked about the SEC moving from 8 to 9 game conference schedules. Well, now, according to Matt Hayes, this is what a championship game weekend would look like moving forward if the Big Ten and the SEC were to have their own way. The top 2 seeds would play in a conference championship game. That would not change.
Okay.
So you would have Georgia and Texas. If you look at last year, that's what would be played on that championship Saturday in Atlanta. Now, the next 6 teams, determined by conference tiebreakers if needed, will play in a 3 versus 8, 4 versus 7, and a 5 versus 6 format.
Okay.
Okay? The winners of those 4 games would move to the playoff. The losers would be available for at-large selections. So if you finish number 2 in the Southeastern Conference and you lose the championship game,
You're out of the...
no, you're in consideration
Yeah, for an at-large
for an
bid.
at-large bid,
Yeah.
but you are not automatically in. And that is coming from an athletic director that spoke to him anonymously. So an SEC athletic director told him that is the current plan. The top 2 seeds play in the SEC championship game. Then the next 6 teams, which that would be in the standings, teams 3 through 8, it would be determined by conference tiebreakers, would play number 3 versus number 8, 4 versus 7, 5 versus 6, and the 3 winners, along with the 1 winner in Atlanta for the SEC championship game, they would be the automatic qualifiers to the SEC to the college football playoff.
Man, so this and I'm just going back and looking at what you had this year because you had 7 teams that finished 5-3 or 6 teams that finished 5-3, and how you would have to go down all of those tiebreakers. But think, I mean, there's a world where, I mean, just based on the standings, you could have had, let's say, Georgia not get in the playoff, and LSU would have.
Yes.
That's shocking.
That is what one athletic director in the Southeastern Conference has told Matt Hayes. He has written this article in USA Today. The top 2 seeds play in the conference championship game. The next 6 teams, determined by the conference tiebreakers if needed, will play number 3 versus 8, 4 versus 7, 5 versus 6. The winner of those 4 games would move on to the playoff. The losers would be available for at-large selections. The obvious wrinkle we just talked about, the loser of the championship game, the number 2 team in the Southeastern Conference, would not be guaranteed a spot in the college football playoff.
So South Carolina would be, so the next 6 teams after Texas and Georgia, correct?
That is correct. It'd be 3 through 8.
Tennessee, Missouri, Ole Miss, Alabama, LSU, South Carolina.
Well, somebody would have gotten left out because you have Texas A&M in there. So one of these teams would be left out. They went 5 and 3.
Let's just pretend that South
tiebreakers.
Carolina would have won that tiebreaker, though.
Yeah, so you'd have Tennessee versus
South Carolina.
No, you'd have Tennessee you'd have Tennessee versus
You had
Ole
3
Miss.
versus 8.
Yeah, Tennessee versus Ole Miss. Then you would have
4,
Alabama
7.
A&M, and then you would have had LSU and South Carolina in a rematch of a game that was, in my opinion, stolen from
How
South
are you
Carolina.
coming up with Tennessee and Ole Miss? This is where I'm getting confused.
Because Ole Miss was 8th, Missouri was 9th. I'm just looking at the standings as they had them at the end of the season. Missouri would have been the 9th team.
Okay,
based on tiebreakers.
So the standings that I'm looking at, I got you. They're just all showing 5 and 3, but I'm guessing that yours has already gone tiebreaker.
Yeah, mine are in order. Mm-hmm. So Missouri would have been the odd team.
Mizzou would have been the team out.
The 9th team.
So you like this idea or not?
Yes.
No. Well,
absolutely.
He doesn't like it. You like it. Why do you not like it?
I don't like the idea, just the concept of
the number 2 team in the conference not being.
If there's a way to work around that, and I don't know how you do that without making the conference championship meaningless, right? Because if they're both guaranteed a spot, which I guess they were this year too, essentially, but
it's going to become meaningless anyways.
It is.
Well, what you could do is you could eliminate that additional game, like you would not have, like you would guarantee the top 2 teams that go play in Atlanta. But see, if you do that, then you dilute the winning of the conference championship.
Exactly, and that's a problem that they would need. But I would in that scenario, I would rather you have a conference championship game, both teams get in the playoff. I guess you win it for bragging rights, and then you would have 3 versus 6, 4 versus 5, and a play-in situation, and that would be on conference championship weekend, perhaps, or the weekend after. And so instead of having 3 play-in games, you would have 2. And so then you'd be guaranteed you'd have 4 of the top 6 teams.
But the losers of those play-in games would still be available for at-large selection.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Correct. Also,
that's more meaningful games as opposed to we just finished our schedule. We're not going to Atlanta. There's a good chance that we're not going to be in the play. So let's just wait for our bowl game that we really don't care about.
Correct.
Even if it's a New Year's 6 or one of the other bowls.
And according to Matt Hayes, the Big Ten is absolutely considering the exact same format. So
I think there's an interesting foundation there. There's just some wrinkles you would have to work out.
But think about this year and what we had with one of those Big Ten teams where everybody is wondering, is Indiana worthy of one of those college football playoff spots? In this scenario, you would have Indiana playing another game.
Look up Big Ten's standings.
All right, so you would have had so this year you would have had Oregon and Indiana playing in the Big Ten champion. Well, that doesn't make sense because it was Penn State. So it would have been Oregon and Penn State, excuse me. Then you would have had Indiana would have played Minnesota in a play-in game. You would have had Ohio State and Michigan in a rematch. And you would have Iowa and Illinois.
Oh, yes.
Oh, gross.
Those would be your Big Ten play-in games.
Yes.
Throw-up bowl.
So what do you think? What do you think? You think this is obviously this is something?
In case you haven't noticed, I'm all about more games, more meaningful games.
God, I'm just imagining
that
Minnesota
have real
in
implications
the this year.
Minnesota.
Yeah, I don't think they would have won that game, but you never know.
So recapping what we were just talking about, if that system would have been in place this last year in the Southeastern Conference, you would have had Texas and Georgia playing in Atlanta. Then you would have had Ole Miss at Tennessee, Texas A&M at Alabama, South Carolina at LSU. And then the winners will be advancing to a 14 or a 16-team college football playoff as the automatic qualifiers from the Southeastern Conference. And the Big Ten is looking at potentially the same thing.
There's something you can work with there, because I'm with you. Like, more games, I'm all for more games. It's just finding out the best way to make
but
sure
if you
we're
go
getting
ahead and
the
give it
deserving
automatic
teams
qualifier, now, I mean, 9 times out of 10, whoever finishes runner-up in the Southeastern Conference is going to get an at-large anyway.
Yeah, sure. Correct.
But, I don't think you can go as far as to say you get one of the automatic. But see, what would suck
But
is
if you made this universal, then you wouldn't have the complaint from the people who have to participate in the conference championship game that they had to play one more game than everybody else.
And that's why I think in this scenario, you almost just, maybe if you're getting rid of buys in the playoff, then you just get rid of the conference championship games, and that is a bye, right, for the top 2 teams. That is your reward.
But what happens if you're South Carolina and LSU, and you're the 2 teams that's trying to play in, and you play that additional game?
Oh yeah, and then you're like, well, if we hadn't played the additional,
and then both teams, okay, one of those teams wins, obviously, but then that team that won is not considered.
Yeah,
based in the
because they
at-large.
have one more game to choose from for the committee to say, no, look, we've already seen that head-to-head again, or for the first time. It could work both ways.
Interesting.
We're never all going to agree. No one's ever going to be happy.
No, they're not. So get ready, folks. Tomorrow,
it's a fallen world, Conrad.
It is.
Tomorrow, New Orleans should be a lot of fun. We're going to go to St. Louis, Missouri next. Actually, I think he's in Columbia. We will talk to Eli Hoff. He's going to join the program, talk Mizzou and Alabama for tomorrow night. This is Jocks 94.5. It is 1 o'clock on this Taco Tuesday. We're live at Social Taco. This is Three Man Front on Jocks 94.5. Great radio stations in Huntsville and Montgomery as well. Thanks for tuning us in on this Tuesday. A lot of basketball talk as Auburn gets ready to host the Arkansas Razorbacks tomorrow night. Meanwhile, Alabama looking for a bounce-back game, and this is going to be tough as they go to Como to take on the Missouri Tigers. And not enough can be written about Dennis Gates and the job that he has done so far this season at the helm of the University of Missouri. And joining us now is Eli Hoff. He covers the University of Missouri for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. He is in Como as we speak. Eli, I hope you're doing well. And, man, this one's going to be a good one tomorrow night there in Como between Alabama and the Tigers.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a lot of fun. I just got back from the arena talking to Dennis Gates and Caleb Girl about the game, and it has the feel of a big billing game. A late tip-off, going to be a whole lot of build-up tomorrow. We're getting a little winter weather up here, but I still think everybody's going to be excited. Should be a great crowd on hand for a pretty entertaining basketball game.
Eli, is this year's Missouri basketball team compared to what you guys had to endure last year, is that not the greatest pitch for why NIL is such a great thing, just the turnaround from last year to what we're getting this season?
Oh, yeah, it's incredible and unfathomable just in the sense of what most sports seasons look like. Usually you don't win a game one year, you're not a postseason lock the next year in the mix for some of the top seeds. That's not how it usually goes. But you look at what a good recruiting class can do. You look at what a good transfer portal class can do. It can overhaul a program, and at the same time, it's a testament to Dennis Gates and how he was able to provide stability last year. Kamar Bates is one of the best players on this year's team. He was good last year too, and he stuck around and was part of the culture, part of the development. All that is part of it too. It's not just who you bring in the offseason, but a remarkable transformation, and it's the sort of thing that you can do if you're good and things go right in this college sports landscape.
So going on off of that, Eli, would you look at Missouri as, I don't know, maybe the most underrated team in the SEC? Because I think people that follow the league, they know how good Missouri's been, but obviously Auburn and Alabama and Florida and Tennessee and even a Kentucky, all of those teams have kind of stolen the headlines. But, this is a Missouri team. You went on the road and you knocked off Florida in Gainesville. You've got wins over the Mississippi schools. I feel like if you know with Missouri, but I feel like they're kind of flying under the radar from a national scale a little bit.
Yeah, I think you're right on the money there. People who've watched this team or watched this team beat their team, have the understanding of how good they can be when the 3-point shots are falling, how good they can be when they're turning the other team over and getting looks that way. But there are still some people who haven't seen this team play and are going off the fact that they heard this was the team that went 0-18 in regular season SEC play a year ago. I don't blame them for that if that's the last they've seen from this Mizzou team. But yeah, folks who've seen this Mizzou team play, I think recognize the depth they have, the star power they have, the adaptability they have. All that becomes evident within just the first few minutes of any given game.
In regards to the turnaround this year, obviously winning builds confidence, and you're playing one of the best teams in the country in Alabama, but Alabama has warts. Alabama is not as buttoned up as the Auburn Tigers, and we saw that on full display on Saturday. Just talk a little bit about how Missouri is approaching this game against a high-powered Alabama offense that leads the country in scoring.
Yeah, I think Mizzou is prepared to just have to keep pace with that to some degree and keep pace with the pace of Alabama, right? Just play a quicker tempo game. I think one of the key things that Mizzou will be trying to do is just turn the tide over. I know that's something that Nate Oates has been on those guys about, just some of the ball security in conference play. Mizzou's a team that likes to force turnovers. They force the second most of anybody in SEC play. So, that's maybe where Mizzou finds an edge. It'll be interesting to see if they're trying to be a little handsier, trying to go for more deflection, some of that. But Mizzou's an offense that can score too. So this could very well be a game where both teams are north of 90 points, and we're just seeing a whole lot of shots drop tomorrow in Como.
Eli, I'm curious just how much buildup, how much hype is there surrounding this game that we're getting tomorrow night in Como with the fan base and the folks that support the Tigers that you talk to?
Yeah, this game has been a sellout here for quite some time. This is actually Mizzou's last game between now and the end of the regular season against another team in the top 7 in the SEC right now. So you can make the argument that this is the biggest game between now and the end of the regular season. So there's excitement there. I think people feel like Mizzou has a real chance in this game, just given the makeup of this team and the fact that they can beat just about anybody and certainly compete with anybody. What'll be interesting to see with the crowd tomorrow, we've got winter weather coming in here, temps just above 0 and some snow coming through. That might keep some people away from the arena, but really I think this is the type of game that people are gonna push through and pack the seats for.
So, Eli, there's one player that I wanted to ask you about specifically, and I'm just so fascinated by him and kind of his impact that he's had for Missouri, and that's Caleb Grill. And, you know, if you followed this team and maybe you've just watched highlights or you're just looking at a box score and you look at him night in and night out and you go, man, that's one of their best players. You know, surely this guy's in the starting 5, and what he brings to Missouri off of the bench as kind of that offensive spark. How big has Caleb Grill been for Missouri this year coming off the bench in that role?
Oh, he's been incredible, and I think, you know, we could have the debate of who the best player on this team is. He's certainly the most impactful, just because he does come off the bench, and in 3-4 minutes into the game, all of a sudden Dennis Gates is substituting one of, if not the best, three-point shooter in the SEC. That's a huge advantage to have at that stage of the game. He's someone who, like I mentioned there, can knock down threes at an incredibly high rate. He started to get a little more physical off-ball defense from opponents, I think is how we should put it. So he's not getting those shots as easily, but he'll happily just resort to being a cutter and create space that way. He's a good defender. He's a good rebounder. He just brings a lot there. As far as the culture of this team goes, he's one of the clear leaders. He was on the team last year, just hurt for most of the season. So he's a real, can be a fiery guy when they need him to be, can be the guy who knocks down a timely jumper when they need him to be, and of course just someone who can change the game after that first media timeout, give or take, which is usually when he's entering.
Eli, in regards to Missouri's ceiling, and you look at this team, right now Joe Lunardi has Mizzou as a 6 seed. Where's the ceiling? Where's the basement with this team? Because obviously they're going to the NCAA tournament this year, but how high can they get from a seeding purpose in regards to the way that they can play down the stretch?
Yeah, I think seeding-wise they could certainly be a top 3 or 4 seed when it comes to what the ceiling outcome is. Like I said a bit ago, tomorrow's the only game against a top 7 team in the league that Mizzou has between now and the end of the regular season. They're going to be favored or barely underdogs, but probably favored in just about every game between now and whatever they face in national. So there's a lot of opportunity for this team to get more wins and make up ground and grab a double bye in the SEC tournament. And if you get there, you know, I'm not a bracketologist, but I have to think you're getting in a 3, 4, 5 seed situation. So it wouldn't surprise me if that's where Mizzou gets. I think the expectation here is increasingly that this is a team that's playing the second weekend of March Madness too. I think all of that is shaping up. It feels like this team could be one that could make a run if it gets hot at that time.
As far as the overall SEC and the number of teams that get in, you still got the likes of Lunardi and others saying that there's going to be 14 teams from the SEC that punch their ticket. Are you there? Do you believe that the league is worthy of having 14 of those teams?
It's tough, and Dennis Gates today was telling us that he thinks it's 14 as well. He was lobbying for Georgia, who Mizzou beat over the weekend, to be in there as well. I don't know if I'm personally there, just having seen the Oklahoma and Georgia a little bit. You know, maybe one of those gets in. I think the number for me is it's more of a debate between 12 or 13 in my eyes. But again, those are people who study the math and the formulas and all that a whole lot more than I do. So I'll defer to them. For me, it still feels a little hard to comprehend a conference having 14 teams in the NCAA tournament.
So keeping on with that, when you just look at the SEC again as a whole, and maybe you'll have a better picture of this tomorrow after getting to see Alabama and how that game plays out, but right now I think we would all agree Auburn's clearly the best team in the SEC as well as the best team in the country right now. But how many teams do you look at this league and go, oh, yeah, that's a team that I could see making the Final Four. I'm going to have no surprise if they're one of the final teams standing in the big dance?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's several, right? Just off the top of my head, yeah, certainly Auburn's there, Alabama's there. I think, you know, Mizzou beat Florida, but I've seen Florida just blow some other teams off the court this season. I think they're certainly capable of getting there. Texas A&M is they're just a tough nut to crack as far as what those guys can be, but they can impose their style on folks. I think this Missouri team can win in enough ways that with some hot shooting they could get there. So I think right there that's 5 teams that you could make a case for. In really 2 or 3 of those that it's a very likely outcome that they get there. So so much talent at the top of this league. It's not just about it being well-rounded. There are legitimate title contenders at the top.
Well, it's a mandated question that I have to ask you because originating from the football capital of the United States, I have to ask you a Missouri football question. So in regards to Eli Drinkowitz and this Missouri Tiger team, as we head into the offseason, I know spring it will be upcoming for this team, and then we'll have another, obviously, portal window, so the rosters are not 100% set. But the work that Mizzou did already in the transfer portal, how much better, in your opinion, is this roster right now as opposed to last year at this time?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of those things where it's tough to know just with all these teams portal-wise. I think the defense is certainly vastly improved. Damon Wilson, the edge rusher from Georgia who came in from the portal, he's been considered one of the best guys who was in the portal at any point this cycle. So for Mizzou to snatch him away from Ohio State is a big deal. A big safety addition in Jalen Catalon, who's a former All-SEC guy down at Arkansas. What it really boils down to is Bo Perbila, the Penn State backup quarterback who transferred to Missouri. Just don't know what he is. He was in for some kind of novelty packages with the Nittany Lions. Threw the ball just a little bit, but it's hard to know what he's going to look like, and so it's hard for me to know without really knowing the quarterback piece. But I think the recipe is there for Mizzou to be just as good, if not better, when it comes to this fall.
Eli Hoff covers the University of Missouri Tigers for the St. Louis Post-Dispatch. Just think, Eli, you're going to get your taste of Alabama fans tomorrow night and then again in the fall when Alabama football comes up to Como. So get your fill of a lot of Crimson Tide fans coming up. Eli, always appreciate your time. Enjoy the game tomorrow night, and we hope to catch up with you soon.
Hey, for sure. Thanks for having me, guys.
Thanks. That's Eli Hoff joining us on the Buyers Ride Hotline.
Sellout, Conrad. It's a sellout in Como.
I'm ready.
Are you concerned?
No, because I'm not going to be there, so it'll be fine. I was there in spirit on Saturday. That was the problem.
Are you just gonna do something else?
Yeah, I thought about. I was like, man, I might have to break out the beanie for the second half of the Auburn game, and I didn't do it. And maybe that's the reason why Alabama came up short. I don't know.
Do you think?
We'll never know.
Do you think Alabama goes 4-2 down the stretch, 5-1, 6-0?
I think like Charlie Potter said yesterday. I think 4-2 is reasonable, and if one of those wins is over a Florida or an Auburn, I'm perfectly fine with that.
So if they go 4-2, what's their seed? Depends on who they beat.
Yes, if one of those wins is a Florida or an Auburn, yeah, you're a 1 seed.
Okay, I was just curious where you thought the line of demarcation for a 1 or a 2.
It's just hard for me to see Alabama falling off the 1 line right now.
Houston's pretty good. I wouldn't be worried about like Tennessee jumping back up there and taking that spot. I think they've maybe. Their ship has sailed for Tennessee, but
do you get into a situation if Alabama stumbles a little bit, then you go to Knoxville, which they do not play well in that building.
They don't.
You lose that one, then all of a sudden does Tennessee get more love than Alabama?
It's possible.
That's just brutal down the stretch.
We're built for it. It's fine.
That's bad.
We're built for it.
Like you were Saturday.
That was a little bump in the road, Pat. Just a little hiccup.
You might want to go back to that building store.
We are live at Social Taco. We've got 45 minutes left. If you want to stop on by for a late lunch, come on by and see us. We'll be here until 2 o'clock, take you up to the Paul Feinbaum Show. So, one thing is for sure, Dennis Gates, he's going to get Coach of the Year awards, not only in the Southeastern Conference, but in all of college basketball, what he has been able to do to turn around the Missouri program. Not winning a game last year. They were 0-19 in the SEC, 0-18 during the regular season. They go to Nashville. They lose there, 0-19. Could the same be said for Notre Dame basketball? We'll let you hear what their head coach said last night after their tough loss against Louisville. That's next on 3-Man Front. I get it. Missouri.
Kathy Bates was great in that movie.
Yep. James Caan. He's awesome. That's a movie that'll lift your spirits. Oh, it will. If you're in a bad situation, you're thinking, golly, man, I can't stand this other person that I'm sharing a house with. It could always be worse.
It could always be worse.
You could be chained to your bed with a cinder block between your ankles.
Wow. Oh, God,
that was rough.
It wasn't fun to watch.
By the way, all of our guests join us on the Buyers Right Insurance Hotline. Buyers Right Insurance for all of your insurance, financial, and HR needs. It's Buyers Right Insurance, a Higginbotham partner. We appreciate Eli Hoff stopping by.
Yeah, and Dennis Gates has just done an incredible job this year for the University of Missouri. Just a complete turnaround, where last year at this time, I think a lot of people were going, all right, how much is it going to have to cost? We got to get rid of him.
Flash in the pan.
I mean, they are right where South Carolina was, or is this year. That was Missouri last year.
Is this, though, the most remarkable one-year turnaround we can remember in college athletics?
It's wild.
It's pretty amazing what he's been able to do, and to do it in this year's SEC.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, we're not talking about a down year. I mean, we're talking about, and they're right in the thick of it with 8 wins.
So would Dennis Gates get your vote for SEC Coach of the Year over Mark Byington now?
Yes.
Yeah.
No doubt. No doubt. Well, right now, Notre Dame is suffering a little bit.
Oh, no.
They are sub 500. They're currently 11-14 overall. They're 5-9 in the ACC. After a 75-60 loss to Louisville last night, Notre Dame head coach Micah Shrewsbury displayed the following emotions.
I sat there and watched more Louisville fans in here than Notre Dame people. Because we're going to get this thing rolling. I sat there and watched more Louisville fans in here than Notre Dame people. And that's embarrassing. That's embarrassing for me because I'm the head coach here. And yes, I got us in this predicament. But don't come back when we're losing or when we're winning, because we're turning this around, man. You better believe that. Everybody that gave up on me, believe it. Write this date down and believe it, because we're going to get this thing rolling. I don't care if you gave up on me or not.
There you go. He knocks the microphone over and he storms out. He's 10 games under 500 as the head coach of Notre Dame, but he's got this thing turned around. So write the date down, February 17th, 2025. That's the day that the Irish basketball program, Conrad, turned around.
Maybe they'll give him a plaque like Tebow has in Gainesville, but there's nothing I love more than a coach getting mad and slamming a microphone, pounding a podium. It's just giving me flashbacks to Brian Kelly after the USC game at the beginning of last football season. It's a beautiful thing, but I mean, at least they're 5-9 and they're not 0-14, but I think the ship has sailed on getting things rolling this year. Better luck next year.
I mean, Landrum, you're looking at a team that he's griping and complaining about more Louisville fans they're watching at Notre Dame at a basketball game. What about putting a better product on the court where more Notre Dame people would want to come watch?
Yeah, I can't really blame them when you're 5-9 in conference play and the conference is as down as we can ever remember it
One of the
being.
worst ACC in the history of basketball.
Yeah, you're probably not going to get a whole lot of interested folks that are going to spend a Saturday afternoon or a weeknight and coming and watching your terrible product. Looking at last year, 13-20 overall, 7-13. Of course, him getting Penn State to the tournament back in 2022 and 2023, that's a great achievement, because when you think Penn State, you certainly don't think basketball.
Didn't Notre Dame knock Alabama out of the NCAA tournament 2 years ago?
They sure did. It was when Quinterly tore his ACL.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
In the first half of the basketball game.
Yep, that was it.
Yep. Also, if you got his bio pulled up.
Yeah, I got his bio.
Because
he is not married.
Oh, that's not what I was going to
I was just wondering, his poor wife, she's got to hear this when he gets home.
I did not care about his sexual orientation or if he was married.
I was not insinuating that you had the hots for this guy. I wanted to look and see if if his family was sharing in this misery.
He wanted to know if it was like Shane Beamer's kids telling him to not stay at home because their football team was so bad.
Shrewsbury
He needs to work
graduated from
harder.
Cathedral High School. He earned a BA from Hanover College and a master's degree in sports management
Now,
from
my question
Indiana
is,
State.
but he coached, if I'm not mistaken, it was a small college in South Bend, did he not?
He did. It was IU South Bend.
Okay. There you go.
2005 to 2007.
So that was the connection. I know he's an Indiana guy.
Yeah.
But I knew that
born
there
in
was
Indianapolis.
I knew that there was a connection with South Bend. So that was why he kind of had the inside track. No, I think he did an okay job at Penn State, but let's just face it, Mike Bray towards the end of his career at Notre Dame, he kind of mailed that bad boy in.
Yeah, you think
when he started wearing
the
shorts,
duckhead khaki shorts
yeah,
with the
T-shirt,
the dad shoes, tennis shoes.
It just would have been
like
perfect.
The real bulky, bright white ones.
It just would have been perfect if we didn't get the news yesterday that LSU was going to retain McMahon.
Yeah.
And then, Shrewsbury could have said, oh, well, I'm going to go take the job at LSU because I think I have a better chance to compete there with NIL.
That'd be gold.
Him and Brian Kelly could go and have, I don't know, gumbo together and talk about being at Notre Dame.
Can you imagine the media that was there covering that last night?
Oh.
I'm sorry. How do you not laugh if you're in that press
Well, it's
room?
like, golly, well, I gotta go and listen to this guy talk about a bad basketball team, but I have to do it, and it's just, can the season get over? And then you see the fireworks there, and it's like, you know what? I'm glad I'm here for this.
Are you this fired up in practice every day, Micah? Are you this fired up on the sidelines during the games? Like,
well,
they're gonna get it rolling though. They're getting it rolling.
Well, like I said, I hope you wrote it down. February 17th, 2025. That was the day that it all turned around.
I remember where I was when Mike Shrewsbury.
The Irish promise.
Yep.
Without that edict.
When he turned
and
it
look
around.
at them now. The dynasty that is Notre Dame basketball.
That is unbelievable.
Notre Dame's got it rolling in the women's.
Hey, Molly,
Yeah.
I do have some good news on the USA-Canada hockey game coming up Thursday night. Did you see where the Kachuk brothers are playing?
I did see that. And they're bringing up another one of the brothers, too, Quinn Hughes, as well.
How about that?
Mm-hmm.
I thought you said Taylor Swift was going to be at the game.
Oh, no. Well,
I thought that's
we don't
what we
know.
were
She
getting.
might be.
Maybe so.
Maybe she's turned to hockey.
So, as of right now in the United States, they're a -1.5 goal favorite.
Oh, that's a big swing from Saturday. They
That's
were
right.
1.5 point underdog.
The goal total is 5.5. That's the over/under.
Notice they just went around. They just messed around yesterday.
Oh, yeah. Well, they had
Depleted lineup.
3
Oh,
or
yeah,
4 of
they-
their guys held out, and one of them got hurt.
Yeah. So right now on the money line, so forget about the puck line, but just the money line, it is -106 for both teams. So it's basically a pick 'em from the money line standpoint, but from a puck line standpoint, the USA at -1.5 would pay you +230.
Is the Canada hockey team ready for the Boston crowd?
Is anybody ever ready for the Boston crowd?
I was going to say,
Exactly.
probably no one.
No matter the
Exactly.
sport.
No.
Write the headline in the Boston Globe on Friday morning.
Now that I'm dialed in, I'm worried about Team USA because traditionally when I get dialed into something like this that has to do with patriotism and pride of one's country, we fail on a big stage. Yes, I'm looking at you, soccer. But I'm going to watch on Thursday night, and I cannot wait. Do you think we get
Have you ordered
right
the
after
USA
the puck drops,
sweater?
or we get a fight, or is that all out
No,
of their
no,
system?
no.
now?
This is all nothing but. I mean, this
is hockey.
Absolutely.
So you don't do that.
No, that was round robin stuff. So what's the headline, Conrad? Boston Globe, Friday morning.
Get the puck out of here.
Oh, that's a good
That
one.
was good.
That was a bad Boston
I
accent,
was thinking-
but
That
I
was
tried.
good. Do it, Molly. Do the Boston accent.
Get the puck out of here.
That was better.
That was
better.
better.
That was better.
I was thinking like Boston Massacre.
Yeah, that
Oh.
would be. I could see something like that.
Even if the USA wins 1-0, it's a massacre. Like we killed them.
I could see that.
51st state, no
I-
match for the Eagle. I don't know.
No match for the Eagle.
I like that.
You like that?
Freedom wins again.
Yeah.
That freedom ring.
Yeah. Freedom Bell tolls in Boston.
You got options.
I'll come up with a good one.
What if we lose?
Oh, it's not even possible.
Boston Massacre.
I was about to say, some of these might be applicable both
It's
ways.
Lexington and Concord all over again.
Is Kurt Russell going to come and give a pregame speech?
The Canucks can't. The Canucks can't.
The Cantucks?
The Canucks.
Something like that?
The Canucks
You think
can't.
there'll be a lot of people from Edmonton?
Edmonton?
Yeah.
I heard that they're bringing a contingent.
Their best player is from Edmonton.
Really?
Connor McDavid. He plays for the Edmonton Oilers. Because they were in the Stanley Cup final last year.
Montreal.
Yeah.
Montreal.
Toronto. That's my favorite. Quebec.
Vancouver.
Vancouver. Yeah, that's
Gone around and pronounces Canadian cities and provinces.
I know it's Edmonton, not Edmonton. Come on, guys. We're just having fun.
That's probably the way you're supposed to say it.
It probably is.
All right, when we come back from Social Taco, we'll do some Pat Ponders. We're 30 minutes away from the Paul Feinbaum Show right here on Jocks 94.5.
Just pet that puppy.
Oh, the late Toby Keith.
Yep. God rest his soul. Red, white, and blue.
That's going to be a good one on Thursday night in Boston, Massachusetts.
We put a maple leaf in your...
Team Canada taking on Team USA. All right, let's do some Pat Ponders, brought to you each and every day by Courtesy GMC. Better head out to Trussville. Don't go anywhere else. Just go to Trussville. Courtesy GMC. Check out their online inventory at courtesybirmingham.com. Question number 1. Based on this year's results, is the Southeastern Conference the most powerful conference in the history of college basketball? Not asking for any statistical data, just off the top of your head. Would you say that this is the greatest season in the history of college basketball from a conference standpoint?
Yeah, just based on the number of teams that are in, it's not only spread out, but you look at the top 10, you look at right now projected 1 seeds. Well, it might not be fair because of the number of teams that are in the conference. Yes, for this year, I could say that I do believe that this is the most powerful.
Yeah, and obviously, a lot of this, at least when we look back on this year, will be determined by how far teams go in the NCAA tournament. Did you get a national champion out of this year? How many teams in the Final Four? Things like that. But I think right now, yes, I have never seen a conference have this dominant of a season where they clearly appear to be head and shoulders above the other Big 12. I mean, the Big 12 is a great conference, and the SEC is just wiping the floor with what the Big 12 has done this year.
See, I'm with Conrad on this one. I think in my lifetime, definitely, because you just look at the dominance of the SEC and how many projected teams. But wasn't it like the Big East? I mean, again, I wasn't alive. Weren't they like the powerhouse in the 80s? But I don't know.
Yes, they were.
Well, yeah.
I would probably still put the SEC above them, but that was the other one that came to mind.
Going back to
was that when UConn won the national championship?
Let's see, that's 4, 8. They got 11 teams in. That is a record. You had a Pitt team at the top, followed by Notre Dame, Syracuse, Louisville, St. John's, Cincinnati, West Virginia, Georgetown, UConn, Villanova, and Marquette. All of those teams made the NCAA tournament. That's pretty strong.
That's pretty good.
Now, you look at those teams that made up the Big East and how good they were that year. Look at where those schools are now.
But, I mean, only 11 teams in the NCAA tournament? Come on now. We're talking 12, 13, 14.
And it did produce UConn, a team that finished 9-9 in conference play. And they were tied for 9th in the standings, and they went on to win the NCAA tournament.
Amazing.
Kemba Walker.
Question number 2. Before the Four Nations tourney made headlines over the weekend, when was the last time you watched or paid any attention to a hockey game?
I feel like at some point every year I will watch maybe 30 minutes of a Stanley Cup game. If there's nothing else on that night, and I'll go and turn it on. I couldn't tell you the
so
last
maybe
time
30 minutes every year?
Probably.
Okay.
That's about it.
Mine would have been the Golden Knights year.
Oh, their first year when they went to the Stanley Cup?
Yeah.
That was cool.
See,
I watched 20 minutes maybe.
if there's nothing else on, especially especially that we don't have football, or like if there's no college basketball games, I have ESPN Plus, so sometimes I'll go and like put on the Red Wings or the Preds because those are my 2 teams. But I pay usually the most attention during the playoffs.
See, there were a few years where the Preds were one of the best teams in the NHL.
Yeah, they made the finals in 2017.
And I watched, back then, I would actually watch some Preds games because they were really good and it was fun to watch. And I went to a Preds game and had a great time, and that ended after a couple of years.
I should know this, but I don't. Is the Preds on local cable? Are they on one of the old Bally's?
I would usually watch them on ESPN Plus.
You can get them. You can get them on Bally, and
which is now FanDuel
with
or whatever.
FanDuel and what they have, because when you log in, I had to do this for the Braves. You log in and they get your zip code. Yes, Preds are offered.
Okay.
On one of those packages.
I just didn't.
But it's a different. So do you have to get a different package for regions? I guess. Like the Braves package doesn't also include the Preds games, I assume, right?
No.
Okay.
No, you got to pay separate for each team.
Oh, okay. It's by team. Okay. Gotcha.
I believe that's the way I understood it.
Also, just talking about hockey was very interesting because the Four Nations tournament is based on the four largest demographics from where the NHL players are from. Canada is at 40%. 40% of the NHL's players are born in Canada.
Yeah.
30% from the United States. This is the most that it's been from the United States in a very long time.
Youth hockey in the U.S., who knew?
Yeah, and then Finland and Sweden. So those are the top four countries in regards to where they were born, participating in the.
What about the Ruskies? They don't.
You know,
would that be next?
Well, the whole the war in Ukraine kind of stopped the NHL and other sports from allowing them to get access to visas.
That makes perfect sense.
All right, question number 3. Do you agree or disagree with Draymond Green, who says the NBA is boring?
Yeah, I agree with him. Thank you, Draymond.
Yes.
It's boring.
Yeah. Yeah, I would say that's a generally good assessment. I mean, offensively, if all you want to see is dudes jack up threes, then I guess that's your cup of tea. But I think for anybody else that actually likes watching basketball, and I think that's why college basketball is so refreshing, right? Because it's real basketball as opposed to the way that things are done in the NBA. And
I'll give Draymond credit. If I was casually looking at the NBA, he was one of the characters.
Yes.
That I would watch just to see what he was going to do, what he was going to say, how he was going to act, what am I getting from Draymond tonight?
And it was fun when the Warriors started off on their stretch of, winning all those championships. They were fun to watch because it was a different style of basketball than it felt like everyone else, and they were so good that it was just one of those things where you're just kind of in awe of what they were able to do, and now that it's essentially spread to the rest of the league, it hasn't been great. I also thought it was interesting. He said that apparently when he retires or when Steve Kerr walks away, that Draymond has already been told he will be the new head coach in Golden State. It's like, okay. We'll see about that.
Didn't he also say that there was officiating issues in the NBA?
Probably.
How about you, Molly?
Coming from the
think?
No,
dude
I
that
think
punches
it's
his
lame.
teammates at practice.
Like, the only time I watch the NBA is during the finals, and that's it.
All right, next question. March 31st is the deadline on whether the Tampa Bay Rays are going to fulfill their financial commitment to build a new stadium in Tampa. If they fail to pull off the trigger there and make it happen, where do you think the franchise will ultimately Where would the Tampa Bay Rays go if by March 31st they do not pull the trigger on building a new stadium in Tampa?
Music City, baby. Chase
Las
that neon
Vegas.
rainbow.
I would love Nashville.
Nashville would be good selfishly. Again, I would like them in Birmingham so I can boo them and watch the Yankees a handful of times a year. But, yeah, no, Nashville that'd be a slam dunk. That'd be awesome. And I feel bad for the Rays because they have been such a good product in recent memory, and they just don't seem to have the fan support that I think they deserve. So it would be really cool to see them get a bit of a surge, a spark.
Well, what's so funny is that Barry Larkin is trying to get a team in Orlando, and I don't know if he is trying to maybe say, look, if Tampa doesn't do it, maybe we can do it in
Miami's
Orlando.
not doing so hot.
But here's the thing. I mean, you don't have a facility in Orlando. It gets really hot in Central Florida.
You've got to have a roof.
And you got rain.
You've got to have a roof.
So I just,
Retractable, sunlight comes in, whatever, you got to have a roof.
I think they should move to Atlanta and build a second, and Atlanta have two.
There we
Major League
go.
Baseball teams.
Yeah. It'll be perfect. They're in the AL East.
One,
It still fits.
one for the American League East, one for the NL East.
I think New York needs another team.
Nah, we're good.
Or how about the state of Missouri? You guys get another team.
We got 2. We don't need another one.
Yeah,
You put another one in Dallas.
I would just have an odd number of teams. Don't even move.
All right, fifth and final question today. On this National Drink Wine Day, if you're drinking wine, how many glasses do you normally have over the course of an evening? I said glasses, not bottles, Conrad.
Oh, I thought that was pointed towards Molly.
No, Molly's boxes.
Oh, yeah, that's right. She has the boxes.
more of a
No,
box girly.
you have the bag of wine still that we were talking about the other day.
Well, yeah, but that comes in a box.
Oh, that's true. It does come in a box. I mean, I'll be honest. I'm not a big wine person, so one. I'm not a big wine.
If I had wine, it would be with a really nice meal, and it's one.
Red or white?
Well, we went to the award banquet that Conrad was too good to go to. Remember?
That was multiple.
It was me, you, and Molly.
Yep.
We
multiple
enjoyed
because they didn't.
Right.
They didn't have any beer that I could access.
Right.
So I was.
You had multiple glasses.
I did have multiple
that
glasses.
night.
I was very stressed.
Well, I mean, you were stressed because Alabama was playing in the Final Four that night.
I was having to monitor my phone. Our boss was there, and I was having to make
boss
sure
from home was
that
there.
Molly didn't get in trouble.
I would never get in trouble. I was
No, that was
night.
that was really entertaining though at the awards thing.
You said, Molly, you were the best behaved that
Yes,
night? Yeah, that's not
absolutely.
surprising in the least.
What are you really?
Yes.
You
I
were
only
the
had
best?
one glass of wine that night.
Whoa, what?
Yes.
At the banquet, Pat.
No, I'm with you, Pat. That's why you had your heels in your hand with your mascara running as you were walking out of there. And everybody's like, who is that hot mess? And we were like, that's our Molly.
That's a lie.
And then you try to open the other person's car door.
Wait, so what was your answer, Molly? How many glasses at a normal night?
I don't know. I don't really drink that much. It's like maybe 1 or 2.
So one glass, and she is snookered.
No.
Red or white?
White.
Wait.
I like white wine more. Yeah.
Do you? You would.
What does that mean?
Just, I don't know. I don't know what it means.
All right, that's
What about you,
today's-
Pat?
It would be white, and I'm not a big wine drinker like Conrad, but I'm probably a couple.
Well, also keep in mind, most of the places I go, people don't think I'm 21, so.
That's right, because when she sat down next to Leanne at the banquet, and I remember the
They
lady,
think she was her daughter?
Yes.
No, they were asking to.
Yeah, they were asking to see my ID all night. So, a little awkward, but it is what it is. Well, when we come back on Three Man Front, we will wrap up the show for today. You are listening to Three Man Front on Jocks 94.5.
149, we continue live from Social Taco here at Homewood on this Taco Tuesday. Landrum, Pat, Conrad, Molly, glad you're with us here in the Taco Terrace. We had a really good group of folks here today.
Very much so.
We broadcast from 10 to 2 every single Tuesday here at Social Taco in Homewood. Don't forget about the weekends where you get the Bottomless Tapas brunch, 10 to 2:30 on Saturday, also 10 to 2:30 on Sunday as well. Speaking of lunch, coming up tomorrow, Wednesday lunch, that means Rambler Sports Bar and Grill. And tomorrow night, if you don't have a ticket to Neville Arena to watch Bruce Pearl, the number 1 ranked Auburn Tigers hosting the Arkansas Razorbacks, or if you're not going to make the trip to frigid Como, Missouri, I guess it would just be Columbia, Missouri, but Como, well, you can get into Rambler Sports Bar and Grill, enjoy all of the action, not only college basketball, but any other sport. They've got the 283-inch projector screen. It's amazing. All of the other televisions and video boards that they have there as well. An award-winning menu. Check them out. It's Rambler Sports Bar and Grill. They're at the Phoenix, 1630 2nd Avenue South. Get by and see them beginning tomorrow through all the way through Sunday night.
So Nate Oates meeting with the media just a few moments ago and thought this would be worth passing along. So Darion Reed, we know he's missed a handful of games here recently for Alabama. He did give it a go, got to play a little bit against Auburn, but Nate Oates saying that Darion Reed, his hamstring injury flared up after the loss to Auburn. He's working on getting an MRI done. Didn't practice yesterday or today, so the expectation is that he will be doubtful for the game against Missouri tomorrow night. And Nate Oates saying, quote, "We really don't want to hurt his long-term career by rushing him back just to win a game or two." So wouldn't expect Darion Reed to be back in the lineup for Alabama for probably a couple of weeks. Play it safe with him.
Yeah, that would make a lot of sense for Alabama. Wonder if he'll even make the trip. Not that it's important if he's not going to play, but we'll see what happens tomorrow. Now, I was trying to find an advanced line for both the Auburn.
I hadn't been able to find one.
Yeah, and I can't find one either. So that will probably be posted a little bit later this evening as both teams will tip at 8 o'clock. We had Eli Hoff on the program earlier previewing the Missouri side of things. It's supposed to be awful weather in Columbia. It's supposed to be a sellout, but a snowstorm is hitting central Missouri. I saw where Springfield, Missouri, which is in the southwestern corner of the state. Como is directly in the center of the state. It is 2.5 hours away from St. Louis, 2.5 hours away from Kansas City, right smack dab in the middle of the state. But southern portion of Missouri is supposed to get over a foot of snow.
Wow.
Yeah, it's a big snowstorm and crashing temperatures. Supposed to be record cold and a lot of snow. So hopefully the Alabama contingency that will be making their way up to Como will be able to get there. And one of our guests tomorrow is Chris Stewart, the voice of the Alabama Crimson Tide. He will be joining the program just hours away from tip-off. Also, a note for tomorrow's show, Martin Newton, the outstanding athletics director at Samford University. He will be one of our featured guests tomorrow, as he's also a member of the NCAA Men's Basketball Selection Committee. So the last couple of years, we've had an opportunity to catch up with Martin after the brackets have been set, but we thought it'd be a good idea to let Martin educate us on the process in which they're going through, because Saturday morning, this previous Saturday, we saw what the NCAA tournament has deemed their top 16 teams as of today.
Thought it was pretty clear with the explanation that we got. It's been a lot better than what we got from Ward Manuel and Boo Corrigan and others in the past with the college football playoff.
There's no doubt about that. So Martin will be on, along with Brian Edwards from Vegas Insider. He has been on a heater. Like, he has absolutely been tearing it up. I hate that I have just not taken all of his advice. I haven't gone against his advice.
Well, ever since he told you to fade Miami and that didn't work out, he's been on a heater.
Now, he really has. I mean, he's done outstanding in the NBA. I just don't play NBA.
It's tricky.
It's very tricky.
Never know who's going to play.
No, who's going to play or
who's going to care?
I mean, first off,
who's going to play defense?
Nobody. They never play defense, but then you just, I guess the general premise is just take the over.
Who wants to bet on boring?
I mean, it's pretty bad when you have LeBron announcing like an hour before the All-Star game that he's going to sit out. I mean, that's just a new low for the NBA.
That's awesome. All those people. I just want to see LeBron play once.
Sorry. That's unfortunate.
Text line is open, by the way. 205-834-9450. A lot of your texts coming in on one of the proposed deals that could come out of the meetings with the conferences when it comes to football and conference championship games. This one reads, that's the most convoluted BS I've ever heard. This is why committees stink. They're trying to hang on to the worthless conference championship games. The simplest solution is getting rid of the championship games and have a wild card weekend. The 80s Big East in basketball, Big Monday was much-watched TV. Yes, it was. Bet you were betting on those games, Pat.
I was a little bit young then.
Is that when Georgetown was rolling?
Yeah,
well, Georgetown and Syracuse. You watch Syracuse and the likes of Derek Coleman, and, man, you got some really good games on Mondays.
Well, even before that, you had, obviously, Earl the Pearl Washington for Syracuse. At St. John's, you had Chris Mullen. You had Pinckney at Villanova. You had Patrick Ewing at Georgetown.
Yep.
Oh, it was unbelievable, the talent in that league. It was phenomenal.
When did Syracuse join the ACC?
It was...
That would have been the new...
In the 90s?
With Pitt.
No, it was in the Pitt did not join until, like, 2012.
Syracuse,
yeah, I remember that one was more
Syracuse
recently.
2012? Because Pitt and Syracuse came in at the same time, because I just read you the 2011 Big East standings.
In 2013, Syracuse, Notre Dame, and Pitt joined the ACC for basketball.
Yeah.
Steve in Tuscaloosa says Nashville for the Tampa Bay Rays. Lee says the Rays need to move to New Orleans.
Ooh.
Playing the Superdome.
Could be interesting.
Yeah, I do know the Superdome back in the day, I think they hosted some Major League Baseball exhibition games.
All right, that's going to do it for us. Appreciate our friends here at Social Taco. All of you joining us, any portion of the show, you can find it there at JocksFM.com in the Three-Man Front podcast. Big show planned for tomorrow. Another big show comes up next. It's Paul Feinbaum and the Paul Feinbaum Show right here on Jocks 94.5.